All right, Leo, you are my first guest on my channel. So, guys, I am planning on doing a weekly kind of just talk between me and Leo. Leo is a friend that I met back in college. He's a staunch conservative, and he's had a great impact on me in terms of my views. He's way more right than I am on certain issues, but
Hmm.
he's hilarious. He has good insight, and I'm excited to be having this conversation with him. And I'm excited, to hopefully be doing more of these. My channel is small right now, but I think it's gonna grow. I think it's gonna, a lot of people kind of fuck with what I'm saying and my content. And I hope that, I hope I can bring Leo on for the ride. So hopefully you guys enjoy him. He's annoying as shit, but he adds a good element to this conversation. So you can go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience, Leo.
Hmm. Well, first of all, Greg, thanks so much for having me on here. It's an honor to just help out, a good buddy of mine trying to, get the word out there and get the message out there to these people, kind of, the people who are fit more the bill of, being on the conservative end, who kind of feel like they've been, they're being bullied into silence. So I think it's a really important, almost patriotic thing to do, a real civic duty to do things like this and not show, any fear of the mob. And glad that I'll be able to kind of, share my perspective on all this too. I hope people find value in that. And I hope people like me and keep wanting me to come back, week in and week out. But yeah, so anyways, a little bit about kind of me. So yeah, so Greg said college. I just want to correct him. We actually met at an internship, during college at a wealth management office. And, we just kind of hit it off from then. And as far as me being conservative or as right as I am, well, I mean, first of all, he and I kind of get into these talks on a weekly basis, just on our own, about everything that's been going on. There's been no shortage of topics to cover.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we just catch up like every once in a week. I moved away from the city where we met, so we just keep in touch like over the phone like every so often, and eventually we saw an opportunity to kind of actually you know have fun and do things that we already do naturally, anyways, but kind of turn that into an actual product or service, or turn it into actual content that other people can consume for their own enjoyment, their own education, or to find people who are like-minded, to also get an exposure to people who are like-minded, just out there in the greater population. So that's always important. But as far as me personally, I think I attributed a lot to my upbringing, honestly. First and foremost, I'm used to very traditional values, as far as the man and the woman with their different roles. My faith, Christianity, has definitely influenced me a lot as well. And I mean, like, I'm aware of all this. I don't want to take the approach of me saying, "Oh, I'm conservative because they're the ones who are right, and the left are all idiots."
Hey,
you
that's
know,
true though.
um,
That's true.
even
That's true
though,
though.
even
That
though,
don't make it less true. That's
even
that's some true shit.
even though I like to believe that, I don't want to start it off with that because I think that'll immediately kind of seem adversarial. I really want to, and kind of naive to think that at the end of the day, no matter how radical or how crazy, batshit crazy, I think the left is getting. I think we always have to make those, kind of foundational assessments first about why we are the way we are, or why we believe the things we believe. So it all starts there. But also, really, I mean, I've never really been that into the political realm. And I'm sure we'll get into this later. The whole Corona fiasco kind of wiped out about, I'd say, roughly 70, like three-quarters of my regular regimen. And so, with all these things going on, it's kind of really been, politics have really been the most exciting thing on TV lately, with what has been going on with all these boycotts in sports leagues and
Really, the
how.
only thing on TV, really.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So I've kind of been forced to engage in what's been going on across the country. And from what I see from the left, I mean, I've always been a bit more conservative with my values socially. But from what I see that the left is doing, trying to advance things so aggressively, it just kind of, instead of me, succumbing and falling victim to all this and saying, yeah, all this emotional hoorah is, I've been feeling it too. And, I hate, always blaming, problems that are, of completely my own fault on things that are outside of my control. Oh, it's not me. It's the government. It's the system. It's society. It's America. It's American people. The world's against me. I've never really kind of taken that approach to anything. I always kind of try to hold some sense of accountability and, in most things. But obviously we're all human and we always like to kind of, divert blame to, things outside of ourselves just because it's in our nature. But, yeah, as the left has gotten more and more aggressive, it's definitely been alienating me from people who have more liberal views and just pushing me further and further right, because I feel like at times you have to fight fire with fire, really, because we see all this aggression, all this massive power grab and this advancement of their rhetoric and their narrative on people, almost bullying people into submission. And I cannot acquiesce to that. So what's the best way to combat it? I mean, are you going to try to stop a fire with, a bottle of water? No. I mean, like, you're going to try to bring a fire hose to that thing, I mean, to not use guns or, to not bring that into the realm yet, just to give it a very tame example. I'm going to, try to combat it, with a big fire hose because, I feel like that's kind of how tough we have to be in standing our ground without being shaken, because God knows they're doing everything they can to try to get us to either think like them or shut up if we don't. So
yeah, man. No, that's
really why. Sorry, Greg, didn't mean, but just to finish up on that, that's really why I am the way I am as far as my beliefs on the spectrum. And I don't deny it. I do classify myself as a pretty, not extremist all the way to the very extreme of it, to the very, fringe of the spectrum on the right, but I do consider myself fairly far right. But I really was pretty center right up until around March of 2020. And that was when I started to get further and further and further along the right of the spectrum. So anyways,
I think that anybody that, if you really had a real conversation with them, I think most people are probably more right than they were in March before this whole Corona stuff went down. But we'll talk more about that. Just to kind of stay on schedule here, we're hitting 8 minutes and 30 seconds. So we want to go ahead and get into the topics. So the first topic, we're just going to recap the DNC and the RNC. And we're just going to talk about kind of the overall tone. And just kind of talk about the difference between them and just kind of go from there and just let it flow.
Well, there was quite a difference.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and start off. Man, I'm gonna keep it 100 with you. I think that the DNC, like, they don't have any ideas outside of fuck Trump. I mean, they really don't. I mean, the thing is that you've already kind of turned off your progressive base. You can't even pretend that you want to placate them because you really don't, right? Like how they screwed over Bernie back in March during the primaries. And it's like you nominated Kamala as your vice president, which really means that that's who we're actually voting for, the president. She's not somebody to get excited and behind. So it's like the only thing you can talk about is Trump, right? And I really don't feel like they were speaking to the average person in terms of trying to solve their issues or solve their life problems, because with the RNC, I'm watching RNC and I'm thinking like, okay, like, America, it's positive vibes. I mean, we head in the right direction. Like, they're bringing out small business owners and, people, veterans, and, it's actually pretty diverse, right? Like, despite what CNN and the left will tell you about, the RNC, they had a diverse group of people out there, plenty of women, plenty of black people. Hispanics. I mean, I just feel like there's a stark difference between the two, right? And yeah, I get it. Like, when you're trying to take over power, you want to try to make it seem like the current administration is, tearing the country apart and that everything is terrible. But I mean, the DNC was extra grim, man. I mean, they had celebrities talking for them, right? And the RNC had the common man talking for them.
Mm-hmm.
That to me
Mm-hmm.
just shows the difference in priorities between both parties, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's like the Democrats are trying to get you to vote for them because they're using appeal of authority, right? They're trying to say, well, look at this celebrity, right? They're trying to use influencer marketing to win the election, and that's how
It's
you know
almost
you.
it's almost like a testimonial.
It is a testimonial. It's a testimonial, and it's a fake ass testimonial. And I think that's my biggest issue. But I think the overall tone. I think the RNC was just better, man. I mean, I just feel like if I'm neutral and I'm watching both, I'm looking at the RNC and I'm feeling a lot better about the direction of the country than I am looking at the DNC. Your thoughts?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. No, I think all that was spot on. So I think the easiest thing to go off at the very beginning, at first with all this is the DNC really had almost zero actual substance. I think it was a lot of just, it was driven almost completely emotionally. Um,
Oh yeah.
there really wasn't really much talk of policy. A lot of the jokes they made were a little bit cringeworthy. I think there was one joke that they did there about Mike Pence's pronunciation, trying to relate that to the whole Kamala Harris pronunciation debacle. And then Julia Louis-Dreyfus tried to make a joke about the tear gas being thrown in Portland, and it just was not comedic or did not hit in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, I mean, it was just all these things about, oh, America is so terrible, it's so racist. There's no cure for racism.
I mean,
So basically,
there's no cure for racism. I
no,
mean,
no.
you
I
keep it
mean,
100 with you.
I really think at the end of the day, we're all innately, we all innately gravitate to people who are like us, whether it's physically, mentally, as
Hmm.
far as, like how, people interact or how people carry themselves. All that plays a factor into, how we, you know, group ourselves into these so-called tribes. But anyways, yeah. The biggest thing about it was just they really, because in order for them to really try to defeat, first of all, an incumbent, which is already off, like right off the bat, is already very, very difficult.
Yep.
um you know it almost makes sense logically, because they really have to orchestrate all this chaos and mayhem, because as far as the data and just people's daily lives and just the country as a whole is concerned, when during Trump's presidency, things were pretty good. Like the
Yeah.
market was roaring, economy was booming. I
Lowest
mean,
unemployment.
yeah,
Black
lowest unemployment
unemployment.
for black
Like,
unemployment as well. Yes, all this great stuff, and then they in order for them to really try to destroy something that had that good of a run, they have to kind of bring all the big guns, and so we've seen them do that, and without real any hesitation, which is unsettling, in and of itself. But yeah, I mean, the biggest things that stood out to me in the DNC, and I have no shame in admitting this, was really just the exposure that I got to it through conservative mediums.
which means you
so
was
basically,
very biased
so
from
basically
the get go.
listening, so basically listening to bench. Well, I mean, no, I mean, I knew that it was going to be a lot of that.
Yeah.
I think Joe Biden's speech was a speech that he had copied from himself from a handful of years prior, I think. So that wasn't even really like an authentic speech that he wrote for the DNC nomination acceptance.
Yeah.
Uh, and which kind of explains why he didn't mess it up.
Exactly. Exactly.
And yeah, I mean, they had a bunch of these celebrities on there, trying to make people think, oh, since we have these famous people on here, you should vote for us because that's what's cool. That's look at these people who you look up to in music and TV. And having Eva Longoria there to try to, promote, to try to draw in, my crowd, the Hispanic American. Excuse me, it just all feels like a bunch of like tokenism, and there's no real concrete message. It really seems to me like their only unifying factor is this whole facade that Trump is some racist asshole.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, that to me, like when your only commonality is the hatred and the animosity that you have towards a specific individual, that really is just not even well grounded. It's just all being kind of bad, bashed into you over and over again by the media, that this guy is so bad for whatever reason because people don't like the way he talks or the way he carries himself, or he might come off as a jackass. Who knows? But as far as his policies, he's been, really looking out for the American people. And I think that's really been shaking up things in Washington. And I think that that's not something that they want. They don't want the American people to wake up to all the BS going on in D.C. and with our federal government. And I really think that was kind of one of the biggest reasons why, we see him where he is now. But yeah, I mean, Obama and Michelle Obama painting these pictures of, oh, we should be ashamed because we have let racism, be a driving force in our country, which is completely obscene. That makes no sense. And saying that we need to check ourselves and we need to go vote because Trump is so terrible,
Go vote.
all those. Yes, all those are very. Oh, I mean, I'll definitely go vote. Probably not for who you want me to, but I'll definitely go vote. But it just seems to me as very, 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 very again weak, but it was just poor. It was poor in its delivery. It was poor in its execution. Poor in its message. Poor in its foundation of in its delivery of actual facts and concrete evidence of everything. Do you know, like, there's a reason why I'm having trouble trying to say what they actually said, because outside of, screw Trump and we're racist and America's so terrible. Yeah, it really didn't get much deeper than that. So
they didn't say shit.
No. So, I mean, to me, that just seems like something where, these people really are just looking out for themselves. And again, did they really champion the common American? No, they champion these people who, like Cardi B or whatever, and these people who, create subpar content. What's that?
Sorry to interrupt you, but I hear you on the Cardi B thing, right? I'm not the type of person that believes that off the cuff you should dismiss somebody like Cardi B, because people like Cardi B should be involved in politics, right? Like, athletes should be involved in politics, but I ask yourself,
to a certain degree.
To a certain degree, educate yourself first, right? And you briefly mentioned, being Hispanic and kind of how the Democrats kind of see you as a token, and that's what they accuse the Republicans of doing, right? Like, during Herschel Walker's speech, this man got so much backlash and so much bullshit because people saw it as like, oh, look at Trump rolling out the House Negro, to come speak to, the white folks at the RNC. And it's
I thought the Democrats were supposed to promote unity and supposed to be the ones who were civil and all this, and the Republicans were the racist people, hanging blacks in the streets. But you're the one attacking Herschel Walker with obscenities and crass language. That's, just makes you seem like you're the ones who really are, like, you are the people who are uncivilized.
And they think, and my thing is that, like, all the black people that the RNC rolled out, like, they didn't have a hard time, and they left some people out. I mean, there's people that, Candace Owens wasn't there, some other, mainstream black conservatives, like, they had plenty of black people to choose from, right? And that doesn't go with the narrative that the left tries to push, that, the Republicans are struggling to get black people. I really don't believe that, because I think that at our core, black people, you talk about this with Hispanics, but black people we're conservative at our core. And I think
Mhm.
that the Democrats have essentially tricked us into believing that we should vote for them because despite our core values, well, at least we're not racist. So, and because the Republicans are so-called racist,
Well, I don't
then it
know.
doesn't matter
I
what the
don't know what
values
you
are.
call. I don't know what you call saying black people are a monolith, or poor kids being just as talented as white kids. Basically, subconsciously says that you
Yeah,
associate poor with minority, or saying that, you know, if you don't vote for me, then you're not black. From an old white guy who's not even a part of that race to begin with.
exactly.
So you dictate the color of my skin.
Exactly. And the thing is, this dude tried to argue me in one of my YouTube videos in the comment section saying that, that comment
Do you engage people in your comments?
yeah, man. Yeah, I think that it's important to engage people in the comments because I actually want to foster discussion, right? And I want to respond to people who disagree with me because that is something that the left doesn't do. I want to show that the right is willing to engage in conversation and debate. But this dude was on my comment section talking about um the Joe Biden comments and saying he basically didn't agree with my assessment of his comments and that black people he's basically saying that Joe Biden didn't mean that black people are intellectually less diverse than
Mm-hmm.
Hispanics. And I'm like, dude, you cannot sit here and tell me what Joe Biden meant when I'm not just thinking about that comment. I'm thinking about in the context of everything that he said, plus what the Democrat Party have said. Where Hillary Clinton was talking about having the hot sauce in her purse and then laughed. And then when asked, like, are you trying to pander to black people? I hope it's working. Yeah, I mean, like, come on, bro. Like,
I
I
hope. I only wish they allowed for that much room in analysis for when Trump says something,
they
but
don't.
they don't. When
They
Trump
don't.
says
It's
anything that they could
anything
even spin a little bit to try to turn against him, they go full force on it. But with Joe Biden, it's like, oh, he didn't mean that.
exactly.
So, you're already further confirming that double standard. But yeah, one last thing that I want to touch on with the DNC before I actually get into the RNC, which I watched a fair amount. No surprises there. But they try to like have this kind of catch-22, or this kind of Orwellian strategy where they literally try to guilt trip these people into saying, well, no, like basically, I guess the best way to put it is, they try to say that the Republicans are the party for, old white men or whatever, and that they're the party for the common man. But really, it's a bit more complex than that. I do want to keep this in the realm of the DNC and RNC, but just they are not very clear on who they support because they don't want you to know, because they what they aspire to is a society where you have a few who are ultra wealthy and all the rest is on welfare.
Mhm.
So it's actually kind of interesting because I think it's an interesting dynamic where dichotomy where you have to apply to where you have to appeal to people who are both like on welfare, and then also at the same time appeal to people who are these Wall Street, Silicon Valley elites. And like, so that to me is almost kind of blatantly obvious. And where do we see most of that? In these totalitarian, communist, nations. And so that should be a big red flag for people when, you see most of these blue collar workers and most of these common people supporting the Republicans. It's for a reason.
Yeah.
These
Look who they
people,
roll out. Look who they roll out.
exactly. And I'll get right into that. But also, so the very last thing that I want to say on them was, people saying, oh, all this emotional, like, kumbaya. Why? It's like, I try to tell people over and over again, believe me, they have an agenda. They know to the T exactly what they're going to do. They just don't know. They just don't want to tell you because they know that you're going to be like, well, wait, what? They know that you're not going to like it. They know that you're going to be to hell with it. And again, just saying this, addressing what you said about Bernie, I don't know if that really was something where they kind of where it was really authentic. I don't want to get too kind of deep into it, but maybe they just thought, Bernie's exactly what we want, but that's a little too obvious. I was watching this bit on with Tucker Carlson saying that Joe Biden poses no threat, as in he seems like this very mellow dude. Oh, he read this Irish folk story, something. I've been through this and that, and this whole like hogwash about oh, woe is me, and look at me now, or whatever. Just Joe Biden seems very non-aggressive, easygoing. He's an easy guy to say, oh, okay, yeah, he's not going to be that tough, abrasive guy that Trump is, but he seems like that grandpa, like come here, kiddo, let me come over here to grandpa. And I don't even want to get into the people who have accused him of all the sexual misconduct. Being touched.
Joe.
Yes.
Joe. I'm gonna get one of those shirts, by the way.
Comical, yeah. Those things are great, but yeah. I mean, Joe Biden is the person they pick because he's a perfect Trojan horse for what they actually want. Again, this whole radical agenda, but we can get into that, later on. Again, so addressing the RNC, they brought up common people who most Americans have never heard of. That Cuban immigrant who literally broke down in tears saying that a lot of this stuff that's been going on has been reminding him of Cuba and the whole and all the reasons why he left Cuba in the first place. That really struck a chord, because that tells me that he knows firsthand what the beginning of a regime change looks like. And he came to America to escape that. Yep. And now he sees that happening in America like all hell all of a sudden. So he's like, well, where do I go now for my own liberty, for my own liberty? Tom Scott had a great speech, from
Tim Scott?
Sorry, Tim Scott. Tim Scott, thank you. Tim Scott had a very strong line with, from the cotton field to from the cotton field to Congress, which was very powerful. I think that little refrain is going to play in people's minds over and over again. The family who had their daughter be killed by ISIS, held hostage by ISIS. That was just last night. That was very, very moving. I think that the Republican governor here, one moment. I want to make sure that I can bring these people up by a name. Is he the governor, or is he like a senator? Arkansas senator. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Tom Cotton?
Yes, that's why I was a bit hesitant, because I know there's a Tom there somewhere, so that was where I confused it. So Tom Cotton, he really came out swinging a lot with Joe Biden support. His speech was very, very on point and very factual and very concrete about why Joe Biden, or how we can prove Joe Biden doesn't put America first, with supporting Chinese fentanyl, and having all these jobs go to China, and basically gutting our manufacturing, which is extremely important for the prosperity of a nation, because at the end of the day, all wealth comes from the earth. Real physical things. We can do all this service stuff with insurance and banking and lawyers, because why? Well, because these people who are actually producing physical things need capital and need litigation and need insurance policies. That's the whole reason why. We're a service economy now, but we still have certain sectors. I mean, we still have a fair amount of an agrarian sector. We have a we all of a sudden it's being pummeled, but we did have a strong energy sector with oil and gas. Certain products, I would assume are still being made here locally, but a lot of people's manufacturing is done in China, is outsourced in China because of the cheap labor. And, they supported a lot of that during the Obama administration. Again, a lot of that caused the middle class to feel like they weren't being heard, because, again, the people they were catering to were people who were in the elite circle, who, are in that kind of that fraternal group. And then everyone who's outside of that, they want to submit to them and be under their control through, a welfare system or, kind of depending on the government, for their own well-being. So, there's this kind of there's a sandwich structure of where the political parties have their are targeting their appeal. But yeah, so Tom Cotton was great on calling out Biden with certain things about him supporting China. Tim Scott had a great riveting speech, and they again, Herschel Walker, the Democratic representative from Georgia, he was a Democrat, and he came on to the RNC.
His name like Vernon.
Yes. He had a great speech talking about how he is not, supporting where his party is going. And I'm going to get into the infiltration of the Democratic Party in a little bit. But again, that guy who was paralyzed from the waist down, that high school child who
he's running for Congress, I think, in NC.
In North Carolina, yeah. And again, that high school student who basically had his any of his prospects of going to college ruined by the media for that video when he was, confronting people.
Which is so fucked up, man.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so fucked up.
Absolutely. So that's a whole nother thing. These people who are common Americans. That's the point that I'm trying to make, and they're giving these speeches. I think they had also another lady who was there who used to be a Democrat, and she said that they were basically turning all in a bunch of socialists. So she flipped.
Yeah.
All these things, and again, like we mentioned, Herschel Walker, and and all these individuals who gave really true, concrete, inspiring speeches about why this country is so great. Trump, doing the naturalization ceremony for those 5 immigrants, the pardoning of, I believe her name was Miss Johnson or whatever, for being wrongfully committed of a crime. And that just happened. I think that was on the last day. That was just yesterday. And his speech last night, while it was lengthy, he attacked every point, on his achievements in foreign policy. A big thing that's not brought up enough is his peace deal between the UAE and Israel, bringing peace to the Middle East. I mean, that was
to a certain extent.
To a certain extent, not completely, but a big stepping stone to that goal, because achieving anything like that in the powder keg of the world, so to speak, the Middle East is almost, was almost out of this world, outlandish.
They don't give Trump credit for anything, bro.
No,
they don't give him credit for anything.
Say that Biden came out and said that really was the bedrock, was a foundation laid out by the Obama administration. So Trump gets credit for screwing up the corona
wearing a mask.
Not wearing a mask, but he doesn't get credit for the economy or the UAE-Israel deal or any of these other things. So anything bad that he does is all his fault. Anything good he does has nothing to do with him. So
ain't got nothing to do with him.
But that that's we'll divulge into that more so when we get onto the coronavirus itself. But yeah, I mean, and then Mike Pence was great. They really laid out real, concrete things as to what they've done, how they've enacted it, different acts, the Right to Try Act, where a kid who is terminally ill, who's going to, be deceased anyways, has the right to try, certain medication that's still an FDA approval just to see. Might as well. If this is really my last hope, why not? And again, him pulling out of the Iran nuclear deal, where it was very one-sided towards Iran, him pulling out of the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, where, it would have bankrupted our auto industry, him pulling out of the Paris Climate Accord, where, it was completely financially, almost, impractical for our country. And again, with that passing of the National Park Reservation Act or whatever, Trump cares about the environment and, and all this stuff. He just realizes that a lot of these organizations and a lot of these, a lot of this bureaucracy is really just a money pit and gets almost nothing done, that promotes this agenda of overregulation that hampers businesses. So all this concrete stuff we got from the RNC and this hope this light, this breath of fresh air. I love how the first thing they come out and say, oh, they're not social distancing. Oh, they're not wearing masks.
That's the only thing they can talk about, bro.
That's the only thing. Like Rachel Maddow, God bless her. She comes out. She
super liberal.
I'll debate her any day because I really feel like the liberals have less and less to stand on with each passing day because people are just starting to realize that their agenda is just becoming so heinous. Yeah, but they said, oh, it looked like it looked like death row seeing Mike Pence. People had Mike Pence's speech because nobody was social distancing and wearing masks. And then another lady commented and said, all these people who were at that speech for Mike Pence or Trump's speech on the South Lawn who weren't wearing masks, all sitting next to each other, they're all at risk now of dying from COVID.
No, and they don't give a damn about the protest.
And I'm like, first of all, no, they're not. They're not. They have no need to fear for their lives. And second of all, so they're outside, okay? And some people wear masks, not all, but they're outside. But they're all sitting down orderly in an orderly fashion. But you're telling me that people out on the street who are jumping and whatnot, I'm sure their masks are falling all over the place. A lot of those people aren't even wearing masks. There's only so much the air that you can breathe when you have, fire burning everywhere and, messing up, with your oxygen, intake. But, they don't say a word about them until now that they're losing ground in the polls. So now that it affects Joe Biden's chances of winning, now all of a sudden violence in the streets is an actual, issue worth their time. So, again, it's just a bunch of hypocrisy, emotions, double standards, Orwellian doublethink. No concrete evidence in anything. They're hiding what they're going to do because they know if you find out, you will literally say to hell with the Dems.
Yeah, I mean,
they know that. They know that.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, to me, it sounds like the agenda is continued mandatory lockdown, continued protests, continued.
Wear a mask outside for 3 months.
Yeah. I mean,
when you're outside in the middle of the woods, wear a mask while you're making love to your partner. Yeah, okay. Wear a mask. Wear a mask when you're. Oh, have you? And now corporations say, oh, you need to wear a mask when you're on a Zoom call with people, when you're alone in your house, when you're on a Zoom call with your coworkers, because it shows that you're patriotic. Like. Please, like, are you what?
Yeah.
All of a sudden,
we can talk about. We're gonna talk more about Corona, but I just want to put a.
That kind of dives into what you said. Their policy is the only things we know that they've said is they're gonna raise taxes, put masks on us, shut down the government, shut down the economy again. If science says it, don't even get into, there's so much muddled information. But as far as their actual, policy on, foreign policy, the economy, different things, what they're going to do for, certain actual, bureaucracies or agencies within the executive branch, or, how they're going to, enact legislation to actually appeal to the common American. They were just void of that. It was very empty. And, I think just a breath of fresh air, like a world of difference. That's another very important point too. These two parties, these two candidates could not be any more different than right now. Very adversarial. They're at each other's throats. One wants this. Okay, one wants this. The other one wants this. And, they're in this tug of war constantly for trying to get that roughly 10% of people who are swing voters. They're independent, undeclared as far as their political affiliation, whether Republican or Democrat or whatever, or third party, or Tea Party, Green Party, or now the birthday party from Kanye West.
Facts.
Yeah. That's what they're in a constant, tug of war for. And, I mean, they couldn't be more polar opposite right now in trying to achieve, trying to achieve their, the same goal they have, which is trying to get as many constituents as possible, on their side. So, But to wrap up, yeah, the RNC gave me hope. It really was a light in all this darkness for me. Those fireworks at the end were breathtaking. They were, just outstanding. They're absolutely, it was just extraordinary, extraordinary. A world of difference. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel sorry for myself for some reason. I didn't feel like I was being attacked.
Yeah.
Like with the DNC saying, "Oh, this is your fault." Well, I mean, the people voted for Trump right after Obama got out. So if you want to blame anybody, again, like he has said, if they did a great job, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Like how Trump, speaks like this. If Obama and Biden had done a great job, I would not be here right now in front of you people. Okay, with his unique accent and whatnot, but and just his demeanor. But I mean, I think all that speaks for itself at the end of the day. So that's how I really want to kind of end on this conversation about the different conventions and just the dichotomy of it. Just world of difference between doom and gloom from one end and, hope and light at the end of the tunnel and pride and, valor also in our veterans and, just respect for our country and a lovingness that we should have for our country, because really America at the end of the day, no matter how many more economies are out there that are, still first world, developed countries, as far as our liberty and our freedoms, I mean, America is really the last of its kind. So that's why I think this is extremely pivotal for, people to really wake up come this next election cycle.
Yeah. I mean, you basically stated everything, but I think the only thing I want to add is this little story in regards to the Cuban immigrant. I was on a cruise before, and I'm not sure if I told you this story, but I was on a cruise, and literally out in the middle of the ocean, there's a raft, probably about the size of this room. And we're, taking off from Miami. We're in between Cuba. And lo and behold, on this raft are Cuban immigrants trying to get to refugees that trying to get to America. Right? And you mean to tell me that all these super liberals always talking about, oh man, like Cuban healthcare system, oh, it's so great. And I'm not saying the Cuban healthcare system is not great, but that's the only thing they got going for them, right? So the thing is that if it's so great, why do you have refugees trying to get across the ocean on a little raft? Like, we're talking about logs stringed together, right? And you have like a family of people on this raft, and I'm sitting here on this big ass cruise, on this big ass boat from the United States, and they're trying to get to where I'm living. But you're trying to sell to me Cuba. You're trying to sell to me socialism. You're trying to sell to me, this Venezuela.
Venezuela, yeah.
Yeah, you're trying to sell these countries that I'm seeing people trying to leave and evacuate.
Or China, all these people, China, and China,
or China. Yeah, they're trying to sell China now.
And basically, attacking China is blasphemy, xenophobia. So.
Exactly. And the thing is that they're trying to sell me these countries. And you guys are talking about how much they hate America. And it's like, none of y'all niggas leaving. Y'all ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, you know what? And I'm also not proud of to kind of bring this up. But I mean, another thing is, those. I mean, a big screaming example was those caravans.
Yeah. Yeah, those caravans, those same people that, let them in, open borders. Yeah. Why do you think they leaving their countries in the first place?
Exactly. These people are literally grouping up into the thousands and marching away from where they live to come to America.
Yeah. You see how long Mexico is, bro? Unless I gotta be leaving something crazy to be walk all the way through Mexico, bro. Mexico long. To walk with a child in a territory with the Sinaloa cartel. I see
the
cartel
north
there,
yeah.
I know all about Tijuana, Tijuana, and all those other places, bro.
Juarez.
Yeah, like I ain't like, bro, you crazy.
And Juarez is right at the border, so you got to deal with pretty much the worst of it right about when you're done. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, man.
Yeah.
But
So,
anyways, we got to move on to the next topic.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think all that just speaks for itself.
Yeah. So these protests.
Mm-hmm.
We can start with this Jacob Blake incident, and I'll tell you what my
Kind
opinion
of,
is.
and then kind of, well, yeah, because that's the most recent one. That's the one that's most apparent,
Yeah,
it's, kind of relevant right now.
it's
We
the
can
most
back,
relevant. I mean, I think the
and we
George
can,
Floyd thing has
and we,
been
we
talked to
can,
death.
and we can backtrack it. Well, we can just backtrack some few nuances, parallels to what started it all off really in this year, which was the George Floyd incident back on Memorial Day. So,
Yeah. So I
but
mean,
it's
with
all
the Jacob,
related. At the end of the day, it's all the same thing, same old song and dance. It's just the thing that's interesting about all this is just the violence in and of itself keeps escalating. I mean, the reason why it happens is always the same, and
yeah,
that's beaten to death, but the things that people do with each occurrence, that's what's getting the attention because it just keeps, escalating and, getting, more and more, a lot more heated, with, with each go around. But
yeah. So I think with the Jacob Blake incident, you watched that video, right?
I did.
Okay. So my take on the situation is that we cannot. There's certain incidents, right, where you look and you say, okay, this is something that we can all get behind. This is something that we all agree is fucked up,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think with the Jacob Blake thing, you have to have when you are a so-called minority and when you're so-called being persecuted, when you're in a country where you say you don't feel safe and that you're a second-class citizen, when that is your case, it is imperative that you carry yourself with the utmost of tact and being aware of what you're doing in your surroundings. It is very unfortunate that the cop shot Jacob Blake in the back 7 times. And I'll be the first person to tell you that, yes, that was excessive. However, I will also be the first person to tell you that we have an incomplete story, one, where we don't know what happened before that video. And two, no matter what happened before that video, there is absolutely no excuse for the stupidity that he displayed by essentially walking away from a police officer with a gun to his back. There's no excuse for that. And sometimes if you acknowledge that, okay, these are your circumstances, you're disadvantaged, you have to be smart, right? You have to be smart about the way you carry yourself and the way you do things, and you can't get away and promote stupidity, right? And we'll get more into that when we talk about the Kyle Rittenhauser situation. It's just people being stupid and then wanting to blame somebody with a gun for doing things that people do.
Who is an authority to have one?
It's who's in authority to have one. You want to blame people for doing certain things when you're provoking those things,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's the issue is that we have to promote being smarter about the way we carry ourselves. We have to
Mm-hmm.
promote interacting less with the police. We need to put ourselves in situations where we don't have to deal with the police. That's the best way to decrease the amount of these incidents because they're really chasing a ghost, right? You're fighting a boogeyman because one, the statistics don't really
Chasing
show.
the whole. I love that Chinese proverb. Chasing the dragon.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
chasing the dragon. It's like a dog chasing his tail
Mm-hmm.
because it's not the problem is not going away because one, even if you did, there's 25 unarmed uh, black people shot per year by the police. 25 killed. Actually, no, that's not even shot. That's literally like just straight killed by the police. That's if they use a gun, taser, whatever, ran over.
So
Just
that's just
25
so so
people.
that's just over two a month
Yeah,
every year.
every
Every
single year,
year.
2 a month. So if you reduce that to 12,
Of all the millions of African Americans who live in this
yeah,
country,
if you
and
reduce that to 12, what problem did you solve? I mean, I'm just being real. I mean, and again, I'm not saying those lives don't matter. What
of
I'm
course
saying
they
is that you
do.
have to
It's
prioritize. You
yeah.
have to prioritize certain things, and a lot of times those lives would have been saved had that person just been smarter,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like if you're a law-abiding citizen, you're a law-abiding black man. You ain't got to worry about the police. And I've had,
Well, it
I've
should be
had,
law-abiding anything. You shouldn't worry about
yeah,
enforcement,
law abiding anything. And I feel like I've had run-ins with the police 3 separate times.
interfering
And
with.
every single time I did what I had to do. I abide by their orders. I didn't give no smack talk. I didn't try to be disrespectful. Yes, sir. No, sir.
You had 3 run-ins with the cops?
Yeah, I did have 3 run-ins with cops. So the first run-in was when I was in high school. When I
Story
was
time.
we
Story
was
time.
yeah, man, we was
You know,
we was
we don't want to divulge too much in the personal, but just try to streamline like
yeah,
each
of
action.
course I'm a stream. Don't
Because
tell me how to run my show, bro.
no, I just think it's important for people to get, your own personal perspective on
Yes,
being
bro.
an
I'm about to
African
tell the story.
individual.
Let me tell the fucking story. Okay. Um, so I'm surprised you don't know this story, but so yeah, we was downtown, 17, trying to get into the club with our college IDs.
Mm.
Um, and we got pulled over by the cops driving up downtown, and we were drunk, and we had a Four Loco in the passenger seat, a closed one.
Mm.
So yes, it was definitely bullshit that we got pulled over, but at the same time, we did get pulled over, and we were drunk, underage. So I mean, we weren't doing wrong, even though it was bullshit that we got pulled over. But still, right? Like,
A lot going against you though
yeah, a
already.
lot going against us, right? So it's basically 4 black dudes and an Indian in the car. So you know what's up. You know they gonna be pulling. You know they gonna be quick with it. So they pulled us over, and we get out. So no, we don't get out. They pull us over, and they come up to the vehicle. Next thing you know, this dude is like calling for help, like backup, like come over here, back up. And then next thing we know, like 7, 8 police officers on bikes just come from around the corner and just surround
Yeah,
the car.
chopper 6. We're gonna need backup for
Yeah,
4 teenage high
it
high
just
schoolers. They're of all the
yeah.
black demographic. We're gonna, we might need the SWAT team to come out here. This looks like that this it's gonna get ugly.
Yeah, it's gonna get ugly. So, I mean, I was drunk again. I drunk. We drunk. Yeah, a whole Four Loco. Yeah, when you drink a whole Four Loco, bro, you out.
You were pretty gone.
Yeah, I'm gone. So I'm like, phew, boy, like, so I'm sitting here getting patted down. But again, I'm gonna tell you something though.
Wow.
Even when you that drunk, it's something about there's something about getting pulled over by the cops that will sober you the fuck up.
Well, there's something about having an interaction with law enforcement, an
Yeah,
individual that can change your life like that literally
exactly.
makes your brain like turn on, like, yo,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. So that's basically what happened. And I mean, they patted me down, they gave us a drinking ticket. They charged all 5 of us with underage drinking as minors. Which, they didn't know we were drunk.
Which has nothing to do with your race.
Yeah, which had nothing to do with my race, but at the end of the day, somebody asked me in college to tell that story. And they tried to see like, oh, did I feel like I was being, racially profiled? And I feel like to a certain extent, yeah, but at the same time, it's like, were we breaking the law? Yeah, we were definitely breaking the law. We were doing things that we were not supposed to be doing. So I can call, I can say, racial profiling all I want, but we were breaking the law. But anyways, so yeah, that was the first incident, and I think the second incident after that was I had got a speeding ticket on the way back from a funeral, which is messed up. But again, that and then another speeding ticket when I was moving into college. So the thing is that
so 2 of those were just speeding tickets.
yeah, 2 of those are just like speeding tickets, and it's like, bro, I've had 3 interactions, and I've never felt like my life was in danger because I understand how to interact with police, and I also feel safe I feel safer when police are around. I never felt like I'm in a situation where police are just gonna shoot me for no reason, or that because I'm black I'm in some type of danger. I don't. And I've had interactions with the police. I've had interactions where I was being frisked. I was being patted down by the police. It was late night. Like, I've been there. And at the end of the day, you got to understand how you got to be aware of your surroundings, aware of who you're dealing with, and you have to act accordingly. I'm not going, if that situation, if I was drunk and I ended up trying to run away from the police or trying to resist arrest or getting mad because I felt like they pulled me over for nothing, my ass probably would have been shot. But I knew, and I was smart enough.
playing with fire at that point.
Exactly, you playing with fire, but you're smart enough to understand. Okay, when I get pulled over by police, I need to do everything they say, and even if I don't agree with it, right, handle
Just
it in
shut up
court.
and do
To
it.
handle in court. We did not agree with the cops charging 5 dudes for one Four Loco, closed Four Loco, one, right? So you charging 5 dudes with possession of one Four Loco? No, we did not agree with that. But you know what we did? We got our lawyers. We handled it in court. I'm fine, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's simple.
You did it the modern way.
I did it the modern way.
You
I didn't try
it.
to take it into my own hands.
Yeah, it doesn't really, that never really works too well. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a perfect testament to how, you know, at the end of the day, as long as you do what you're told, and, you know, you follow basic common sense and basic protocol, you know, you'll be fine. And again, of course, police officers aren't just driving around looking to shoot black, you know, males or whatever. That's now all of a sudden, you know, that's just a manhunt. It's like, you know, no, that's not what's going on. But yeah, I mean, so where can I first of all, let me just say, wow, the Democrats, how much luckier can they get that they have something like this happen the day before the RNC?
Is it luck though, man? Like at this point, like is it even luck? Like is it even luck at this point? I mean,
yeah.
I ain't trying to be conspiratorial.
Isn't that so great that your media has something to literally bash wide open right when the RNC is going on, saying,
it's like, this is the perfect storm for them, man. The corona, everybody being locked up, having no sports to watch, no distractions. All they can do is watch.
We did have some sports to watch, but that was ruined like a month later.
Exactly. I mean, the thing is that, like, it's a perfect storm. And at this point, to me, again, I'm not trying to necessarily be conspiratorial, but I got to start asking questions, because this don't make no sense. I mean, this dude channel, the Dorian Williams show. And I love, you know, one thing, the people I love watching on YouTube, older black dudes that know what's up. And this is an older black dude that knows what's up. He said that the Jacob Blake incident was a badly choreographed hoax. Now, I ain't gonna say it's a hoax. I'm not saying that. It's not.
So he went as far as saying that the whole thing was staged.
Well, I don't necessarily. I'm not necessarily saying he's saying it's staged. He's just saying, like, it's just bullshit. Right, at the end of the day, where it's just like
you're saying like the reaction to it. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, he's saying like what he said, what Jacob Blake did was so unbelievably dumb that it's like, bro, why are we even reacting to this? Right? Like, why are we even reacting to this?
Because it's just a black man being shot by a police officer. That's all they need. Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay, so man, it's this is quite the doozy. But okay, first of all, so let's try to go into what actually how my assessment of it, and, you know, kind of like some of the backstory that's already been released. So the police officers got called into a dispute, some type of altercation in a lower income neighborhood. They pulled up. Somehow they knew that they had records on one of the individuals who happened to be Jacob Blake, and they were, you know how police officers have a computer right there in their vehicles, right there, in between, you know, the driver and the passenger seat, and they can look up your profile very, very quickly, typing in your name, especially if you have records, which he did, and he had open warrants out, which obviously is going to escalate the situation a little bit, because they know that he knows that if he gets booked, or, like, you know, if he gets arrested, then he more than likely is going to face prison time. He's going to go to jail. So that already is one thing that's going to, you know, escalate the police officers a little bit. And then also, you know, this whole situation in general obviously has police officers on edge. So you have this perfect cocktail of, like, immense fear between one side and the other. You know, black people are black people, you know, are so afraid of cops, and cops are afraid of blacks because, you know, they think that, you know, it's just a self-fulfilling prophecy. So all those things already make for something that could be very, very, very that could go south very, very fast if just whatever thing slips up. You know, it's already on thin ice is basically what I'm trying to say. So police officers show up, they get there, and he I think was trying to break up a fight between two females. It was basically just, some, like I was saying, an altercation in this neighborhood. And is there any like information out there on why the police officers directed their attention to him in the
Nope.
first place?
And that's what I'm saying. And that's why I think that's what really bothers me is that all that information you just gave is essentially what the story is that we have so far. Right. And my fear is that this is gonna be another Rashad Brooks situation where at first glance it's the cop did something fucked up. And yeah, the cop definitely, I mean, shooting him in the back 7 times is definitely fucked up. But at the same time, what led to that? And that's the first question that you always have to ask yourself in these situations.
So he was pulled. No, he was called. The police were called to a house on a trespass complaint, and the complainant, the person who had complained to 911, who called 911, said that he had stolen someone's keys and refused to leave the property. He had a 1099 warrant. He had a 1099. It was a 1099 call, whatever that means, for an outstanding warrant. Which basically means the subject knows he can go to jail and will be willing to resist arrest and fight back and cause some type of altercation and have some pushback. Mr. Blake actively, so it just jumps to him saying that he actively resisted arrest and was unaffected by a taser. And then he opened his car door, commanded officer to stop and reach for a knife, and and the rest is history. So basically,
and don't forget, if you say he reached for a knife, you're a white supremacist. That's what they try to do to Brian Urlacher.
Right. Of course, no. He was reaching for, the cops were looking a little bit, thirsty, dehydrated. Hey man, like hey, like, do you want some water just real quick before you arrest my ass? No. So he was trespassing, and he already had prior warrants out for his arrest. So obviously, he's going to be the main subject of focus for when the police officers arrive. They try to get him to, neutralize his actions and tell him to just, stop causing a disturbance. I guess they had every right to, arrest him. He resisted arrest. I am not too clear on how the taser on what happened to the taser.
I mean, the taser is not necessarily, and see, that's the thing people don't understand.
What did they do? Like, did they miss? Did they?
No, tasers don't. Some people can resist tasers, and that's more common than you think.
A taser.
Yes, some people.
But big ass dudes can get tased, and then bam.
Yeah, some people. Yeah, a taser can't incapacitate everybody, bro. And that's what people don't understand. People are like, why you just ain't tased dude? Why you just ain't tased dude? Because tasers can't take down everybody, bro. Some people's pain tolerance, their tolerance to tasers is just high. Not everybody is going to be incapacitated from a taser.
Well, maybe he's been tased a fair amount in his day. Who knows?
It's possible. He just one of them, them strong ass niggas. They can just, what I'm saying? Like, they can just take a taser.
Well, I mean, you can put it that way. But so the police officers have a firearm pointed at him, saying, hands up. And as soon as that happens, what do? You do this, right? Make sure that it's completely visible that you have no, dangerous weapons and, firearms, knives, or, whatever that can, be used to cause harm. And so they see you as a non-threat. The police officers have no reason to, open fire. And then, you just go along with what they say. At the end of the day, you are in that situation for a reason. It's no one else's other responsibility to keep you out of having altercations with the cops, with the police. That's on you. It just is what it is. So, and then he doesn't listen to the first commands. He turns around. He turns his back on them, walks away, and goes to his vehicle to reach for, I'm pretty sure the cop got a good view, since he was right behind him the whole time, of what it looked like maybe it was a knife.
They found a knife in the in the floor of the car.
Right there would have been very easy. You just, I mean, at the end of the day, how old is the dude? Like 29 or something? He's not frail. He's got decent reflexes. I'm sure. All you do is reach in for it, and bam.
Yeah,
Like,
I saw
right.
a video of a dude showing how fast you could, take out a gun when
Yeah.
you
Absolutely.
unholster a gun in a
So,
car.
and what do you think he's gonna do when he has a gun pointed to him by the cops when he's going in and reaching for his car? Like I said, just give him, just give him, some water to drink, or oh, you look a little sunburned. Here's some sunscreen. No, no, come on, use your common sense, people. So again, but again, all the details must come out and everything. But again, he is not. They keep trying to use these,
Acts of stupidity.
well, African Americans with criminal backgrounds as these martyrs.
Yeah,
So you're telling me that you want the black community to be represented by people who commit crime?
that's who they care about, and that's what really bothers me is like,
Well, it's going to be a lot easier for these people to interact with the police because they're already getting in trouble with the law. They're defying the law. So by
exactly.
definition, yeah.
And that's the thing that bothers me is that you have upstanding citizens and role models like David Dorn, who was killed during one of the George Floyd protests. And
was he the guy who was the Trump supporter who actually had the
he
Trump
wasn't. No, not that guy.
Yeah,
Not
because
that
that's
guy.
one guy too. Or was
That's
he the
one
guy?
guy too.
Yeah,
He was the guy that was a
who
retired. He was a
was
retired, like,
protecting that small business.
yeah, he was a
Like
retired
right at
police
the beginning
officer.
of all this. Yeah.
Yep, protecting the police officer. I mean, sorry, he was a police officer protecting the small business. Called because there was people looting the business, and essentially got shot in the head by some some hoodlums. And again, dude, literally a picture of him, like, he's shot in the head with blood bleeding out his head and his phone on in his hand like this, and his eyes rolled to the back of his head. And
I bet you it was probably some white Antifa person.
no, it was not. No, they know. No, we know who it was. There was, again, this was a black person. These were 7 black people had broken the store. Yeah, had broken there. And guess what? Did you see any of those people their mugshots posted, wanted by Black Lives Matter? No, they didn't care. And my thing is, David Dorn was somebody that represents what we should want in our community: more protectors, more fathers, more people who are upstanding citizens who are doing the right thing, people who are well respected. Those are things that we should strive for. Police officers looked up to him. He was a mentor. And props to the Republicans for having Ann Dorn speak at the convention, who was his wife. So props to them for that. But a situation like that, to me, you see the parallel in which you're trying to tell me that Black Lives Matter, but a police officer is killed, or a former police officer is killed by some hoodlums that are, looting a store,
just causing,
yeah, causing trouble,
civil disobedience, civil
and you
unrest.
Want me to say everybody else's name? You want me to support this person, that person who got criminal records, who are running drugs, who are doing things that are putting themselves in situations,
domestic violence incidents.
Yeah, you want me to support all these hoodlums, but when it comes to David Dorn, y'all can't say shit. You ain't got nothing to say for that. Yeah, you ain't got nothing. You ain't got no. You can't even mention him. You can't say his name. People. That's what really makes me upset. It's hard when you're educated and you know the statistics, and then you look at these certain incidents, because I feel like I could be sympathetic to the movement, right? If regardless of the statistics, because seeing these one-off situations definitely can affect anybody emotionally. A lot of people, George Floyd moved this country because it was something that everybody looked at and was like, that is messed up, right? Anybody, no matter what side of the aisle you on, saw and agreed on that, right?
They had a perfect opportunity to unify the country.
It's a perfect opportunity to unify the country, but yet you wasted that opportunity and did all these violence and protests, and you got a lot of innocent people, a lot of innocent black people lost businesses, they lost their lives, and all over what? Somebody that wasn't really a positive contributor to our community in the first place.
A lot of people say that a lot of information is coming out that he had a lethal dosage of fentanyl in his system.
Yeah.
And the latest development came out and said that what really caused his death was an OD.
Yeah. I think it probably was that, and along with the stress of the situation.
Of course.
So that probably what kind of led to that. But I want to talk about this Kyle Rittenhauer situation.
Yeah, just a couple things that I want to say to end on that.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's funny how whenever someone who actually should be representative of the black community is killed, he's overlooked.
yeah,
And
it's
the
crazy.
other thing, and then the other thing is that it's kind of hard to get behind this when all this violence with black on black is going on. They seem to really only care when it's a cop that shoots. So really, what you're saying is you're just against law enforcement.
Yeah,
Because it can't
yeah.
be about black lives because black lives are dying at the hands of other black men every day. So, and what are you even really doing with all this money that you're raising? I haven't seen one Black Lives Matter philanthropic organization, you know. But
They not doing nothing. What they doing
yeah.
is going to the Democrats. That's what's going. It's going to the
Oh,
Democrats. The
they're
same
they're
people who are
taking
causing
money
these
from
problems.
people that say they're taking money from people and saying they support the black man when really they're giving the money to old white Democrats. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
It's the same old song and dance, man. It's the same old song and dance. Blame the Republicans, call them racist, but y'all running the cities. The
Yeah. But
Democrats are running these cities. Why are
yeah.
you going to Republicans for answers on things that they don't have anything to do with? Republicans are not running these cities. Democrats are running them.
Yeah, but we'll definitely touch on that when we talk about the BLM and what they really want to do and wanting to destroy the nuclear family and whatnot. But you said you want to talk about the Kyle Rittenhauer.
Yeah. You've
Yeah,
seen that video, right? I mean this right here, I mean, you talking about stupidity, right? Like we just talked about Jacob Blake, being
stupidity on what end? Yeah, yeah.
on well, I look at it like this. I think that Kyle Rittenhauer was somebody that really wanted to be a police officer. He looked up to the law enforcement. He just was kind of trying to be a police officer a little bit too fast.
Blue lives matter and everything,
Yeah,
right?
blue lives matter, everything. Which again, it's a shame that you can't say I support police without being labeled a white supremacist or a racist. Again, but
I support law and order. I'm
well,
sorry.
yeah, I want there to be laws and things to be
I want to make
orderly.
sure I can
And
walk outside and not get robbed at gunpoint. I'm sorry, I'm white supremacist.
yeah, exactly.
I'm not even white, but I'm a white supremacist as long as I
Yeah,
support that.
exactly. But anyway, so he went up to Kenosha with his assault rifle to join a vigilante group.
I think he was from like
And
Antioch or something. It was like 30 minutes away.
yeah,
Just like
and he's 17 and he goes out there and ends up, with these protests and stuff going on, trying to defend these businesses and stuff. He ended up getting basically harassed by some of these protesters, and one of the protesters was chasing him, who happened to be saying earlier, shoot me, nigga, shoot me, nigga, shoot me, nigga. Same dude that kept saying that ended up with the first person that got shot. I think he died.
careful what you wish for.
I mean, yeah, be careful what you wish for. I mean, again, it's stupid. You talking about people with stupidity? Why
Mm.
would anybody in their right mind go to these protests? Right? Like, why are you out here at 11, 12 o'clock at night running these protests? What do you think is gonna happen? What do you think is gonna happen? What do you think you're signing up for? Where you're looting these businesses, and then my thing is that people want to get upset about Kyle Rittenhauer going out there with an assault rifle. Like, dude, at some point do you think that America's just gonna sit by and just let this violence continue? Right?
Well, it wasn't even just him, right?
It wasn't just him. No, it was a whole vigilante group doing just that, trying to
Probably
protect
probably
property.
probably part of that Boogaloo movement or whatever.
Yeah,
QAnon move, something like that. Yeah.
yeah. So my thing is that I still think as a 17-year-old, he should not have been there, right? As a 17-year-old, I get you wanted to do that, but as a 17-year-old, it's like, where are your parents at? Like, I was 17. We just went over a story of me making a stupid decision, right? And I think that this wasn't necessarily a smart decision from his part, but at the same time, I get the reason why. And that dude being shot and killed, again, stupid. Why are you chasing the guy with a gun? Dumb. Stupid decision. Then after that dude got shot, I guess the people that saw Kyle shoot him started chasing Kyle again. Dumb. Why would you do that? And then they basically almost catch him. And Kyle falls. Basically, dudes try to hit him with a skateboard, try to kick him in the face. Almost took his gun. So he gets a hold of his gun and he unloads, a couple rounds into, two people, and that's the end of that. He gets up and he goes walking towards the police, and then the police kind of seem to ignore him, and then people get mad because the police didn't blow his head off, saying that, well, there was a black person, they would have blown his head off, or white people were treated differently by the cops. And I'm not even saying that's not a valid point, but my question to those people is, what is your end game? What did you want to see happen in that situation? You wanted the cops to shoot him? Is that what you wanted? Because I get what you're saying. I'm not even saying that the cops, if he was black, that the cops wouldn't have acted differently. I'm not saying that. They probably would have, but I'm not going to sit here and advocate for the cops to shoot this white guy, this kid, because who has a gun, or to do things like that just to get even, just to be like, well, he treated him the same way he treat black people. It's fair. No, I mean, at the end of the day, it's an unfortunate situation, but it's one of those things where these protesters were being stupid, and this kid acted in self-defense. I mean, I feel like it's very, very clear that this was self-defense. I don't see how you can, like I say, I mean, when you get hit by and people, and that's another thing, people don't understand what being in danger of your life actually is, right? When people want to talk about cops and using dangerous weapons, like you can take somebody's life with a taser, bro. If you incapacitate a police officer with a taser, you can take their gun, you can kill the police officer, right? So if you have a taser, you have a deadly weapon. I'm referencing the Rashard Brooks thing. This dude was getting attacked by somebody with a skateboard. You know how hard a skateboard is? If you get hit in the head over the head with a skateboard,
clean,
you out. You might got permanent brain damage. You might break your neck, hit your head on a pavement.
Yeah, that's another thing too. You get hit by the skateboard and your head falls in that concrete. Yeah.
And again, that's why I say, when people think that cops are supposed to get in fights with these people, like, oh, like the cops supposed to square up and go fist to fist with somebody. Nah, the cop ain't got to go fist to fist with you. If the cop feels like you're trying to fight them and you now life threatening,
that to me is hilarious. But
yeah, you now life, you're a threat to their life. Yeah, they take the taser out, take the gun out, and go ahead and get this over with. They ain't got to sit down and box with you like you Muhammad Ali or something like that. No.
Like
that's the thing that people don't understand anything about. The thing is, people don't understand anything about, kind of what cops go through, and they're trying to speak on something they don't know. They've never been out in the field. They've never done a ride along. They probably don't have any relatives that are police officers. They don't have any perspective, but they're trying to speak on something as if they know, oh, the cops should have used more restraint. Again, I guarantee you line any of these Negroes up, you put them in a cop's uniform, and you put them out there in the hood, they're gonna be the most trigger happy officers on the force. They're gonna be suspended for using their gun so much.
They will abuse that power.
Yeah, absolutely they would.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think all that's right. Okay, so, this is an interesting thing to parse. So there's all different types of factors going on with this, because as I mentioned, these things just keep escalating more so and more so gradually, because now we actually have retaliation mid-protest. So first of all, I just want to be clear about this. I don't feel comfortable living in a country where I know that if in my city a police officer who is of a certain demographic fires his weapon at an individual that's of a different demographic, where nowadays that's going to lead to almost a 99% chance of my city going up in flames. So that's first. So that's, I want to make that clear. I don't really understand what they're trying to gain with these riots and these protests besides just blind rage, if it even really is blind rage. But, just the basic things, two wrongs don't make a right. But, to dive into this specific situation, it's just, it's very unfortunate that something like this even has to happen in this day and age, and it's happening more frequently. I think I almost lost it when I saw that 70-year-old man try to defend some nonprofit organization with a fire extinguisher.
Yeah.
A non-lethal weapon. Okay, he's just trying to get people, kind of like spraying cats with water bottles, just with yeah, like no, I'm sorry, just spraying cats with like water and like a cleaning bottle, just getting the cat to kind of frisk up and go away. Literally, what he was trying to do with these people, just basically telling these people to just hey, like piss off, mind your own business, don't. There's nothing to destroy here. And then as he was doing that, one of the rioters went up to him and knocked him clean down out. 7-year-old man. So that was that was very tough. And also they were lighting vehicles at a car dealership on fire, where the car dealership put on its roadside, big road, roadside, sign, Black Lives Matter. Like how McDonald's it has those arches, and then it has like that
they
little
let
thing,
y'all
the
know,
text.
yo, come on now.
Yeah, so
We
it
on your
says
side.
Black Lives Matter on their sign on the roadside, and the whole thing's up in flames. So it's like, is this about Black Lives Matter, or is it
No, it's
something
not.
else? Yeah, so all those things to me are kind of just very hypocritical, and it just makes this unclear as to what this really even is. But you know, so looking at this specifically, burning these things down, trying to, put this thing under the veil that it's peaceful protesting is a complete falsehood. It's heinous, and it's just like idiotic to think people will believe that. I saw this beautiful headline on CNN saying fiery but mostly peaceful.
With fire in the background.
Yes.
Destruction in the background, by the way.
Yes, fiery, but yes, there's complete chaos, but it's still peaceful. So it's like, okay, CNN.
They try to do whatever they can.
They don't even try to hide the bullshit.
They don't try to hide it. They
No.
don't try to hide it. And no, I was watching. I'm actually going. I'm about to. I uploaded a video, but I haven't released it yet, about Max Kellerman and Stephen A. Smith talking about the Brian Urlacher situation. And Max Kellerman is basically accusing Fox News of being low quality information. And Stephen A. Smith was like, hold on now. Like, some people would say CNN is not necessarily the highest quality information. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with that. Like, CNN is not high quality information, bro. I don't care what nobody say. CNN has a obvious slant and bias when it comes to these protests. I don't understand how you can literally criticize the RNC for not wearing masks and not socially distancing all the time at every chance that you get. But you never bring that up. You never say anything about that when it comes to these protests. I don't understand how Corona disappears. All of a sudden, Corona is not a big deal when it comes to these protests, but it's the biggest thing in the world when it comes to anything having to do with a Republican. I really don't understand that.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's a definite double standard. But again, these people are destroying communities with what they're doing. They're lighting these businesses on fire. These people who worked all their lives to try to have just a little business, a little organization, just a little shop in a small downtown center of 100,000.
American pie.
Exactly, their own piece of the American pie. That their own their own little raft in that river, that leads to of the American river of wealth. Their own little slice of taste of the American dream. All those things that make this country great, and really why people beat the door down to come here, to get in here. They're destroying that very thing, and these are the actual instruments of prosperity for the middle class. So you see something that you don't agree with right off the bat, it's happening in your community, and instead of trying to better it and learn from that, you go and destroy it. Because when you destroy your local economy, you're done.
Yeah, you're destroying your own job. You're destroying
Exactly.
You're destroying yourself.
Exactly. And people are starting to wake up to this. You see that in the polls and everything. And, that's why all of a sudden it's a Democratic issue, because now it's hurting Joe Biden's chances of winning. So, but as far as Kyle Rittenhouse in particular, his particular situation, you know, I love the passion. I love the desire to try to fight this. Be quite honest with you, to fight this bullshit.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just him being rogue, some rogue mercenary. It was a group of individuals trying to,
Protect life,
protect,
liberty, and property.
yeah, yes, trying to protect the local property, the people's well-being, trying to, at least keep things tame, order, maintain some type of law and order on the streets, while all these, derelicts and these people who have nothing better to do go out and just, ruin people's lives, which is really what they're doing. And they're just crying about how, oh, things are so terrible, and they blame everything. They blame it on everything but themselves. So, you know, I think that kid was really just trying to, not really be a hero, but really, yeah, like you were saying, he was trying to, go a little too fast. He was kind of jumping the gun a little bit, no pun intended.
Yeah, for real.
But yeah, I mean, he was just out there trying to, bring some hope to these people, to try to keep this under control and make sure that not everyone is that, make sure that it's not a situation where no one's safe, and anyone is fair game for these rioters to come and wreak havoc upon. But obviously that's going to come with consequences when you're trying to take this stuff head on, especially with you being armed. That's gonna, make this, give a little bit more spikes to this thing as a whole, and you're just gonna put yourself in harm's way. You absolutely are. I mean, if you're trying to get in front of a speeding train, obviously there's gonna be some repercussions when push comes to shove. So, I like where they're coming from. I don't like how they're going about it. But again, I mean, really, the thing is if the police officers can't do their job, I mean, what else? I mean, think about it. If you have something like that going on literally in your town down the street, and you know that the cops you have no chance of calling 911 for any help, you'd be in a state of panic, because like, if these people just direct their attention to me, I'm screwed. It's over.
Yep. Yep.
Like, if you have the mob on you just beating your ass and the cops are nowhere to be found, you're done. It's over. So I really empathize with people who get into that feeling of, kind of, terror when they know that there's this monster, just down the street, and there's nothing to keep it in check. And if it just decides to come a certain way, then there's nothing to stop it. So yeah, I mean, I think another thing too is people are just getting fed up. I mean, there's only so much damage and destruction you can cause in this country that goes unchecked before people start to say, hey, enough is enough. Like, you need to check yourself. So, I mean, it's very difficult, because I don't want situations like these to happen ever at all. I'd rather just not happen at all. And people just come to their senses and not have knee-jerk reactions to whenever, a police officer may or may not have used excessive force, especially for things that are statistically insignificant, like police violence or police brutality on African Americans. So I think it's a tough one. I like how people are standing up and saying enough with this, enough with this BS. But also, you have to realize that you're going to put yourself in the midst of a huge death spiral in terms of what could possibly go wrong. And we saw that happen, But as far as calling him a white supremacist, all that stupid bullshit rhetoric that the left tries to
They
use.
love that, man. They love
I
it,
love
bro.
that. Yeah.
It's like,
yeah,
dude, everybody is not a white supremacist, bro.
You see this like direct, innate, and like just unfiltered attempt at trying to divide people. Instead of saying, hey, this was a guy, I'm saying, these people are setting shit on fire.
Yeah.
He's out there. He's not out there with some, like big machine gun just mowing everybody down. It was a vigilante group trying to say, hey, stop causing lawlessness. And they attack him. They goad him by saying, shoot me, big old target, shoot me, shoot me, niggas.
Couldn't help yourself, could you?
Can I say that? Can I
Don't
say
worry. He's
like
1/4 black. He's 1/4 black. He got his. He good. He good. He
I'm not a
1/4
white
black.
supremacist.
I'm not, you could not help yourself, bro. Hey, it's an hour and 30 in. Most people ain't gonna make it an hour and 30, so you good.
I'm not Uncle Tom. I'm not Jim Crow.
Jim, could help yourself. Could help
Oh
yourself.
no, but yeah, look at me. Yeah, shoot me. I mean, and then so you're posing as a threat, and then on top of that, they come after you with a skateboard. Oh, it's a skateboard. No, it's a hard piece of wood. Like, that is a hard piece, of wooden material. Someone has enough force behind that thing, especially with those wheels and that metal and the wheels and those things, whatever they're called, the trucks. Someone knocks you clean with that in the back of the head. It's like a baseball bat. It's over. And then what do you have to take to break the fall? Oh, is it just like, some nice soft, layer of, cotton linen and, and all this shit? You're at a mattress store or something? No, you're outside in the middle of the street. Your head's going full force into that concrete. You could, permanent damage. It could be fatal. Yeah. So he's going to defend himself. And then, so that's what that leads to. The police, I guess the police that were there didn't do that because they saw, it's natural. He's on their side. And I don't think it would have been any different if it was a black guy who was in that vigilante group who had that same thing. If they saw the people, the mob that was attacking the city, and they saw this vigilante group, and he kind of lone wolfed it, kind of, was on his own, and they see that he's geared up in the same way as that group, and he's the one being attacked by people who are obviously a part of the mob, I don't think the cops would have reacted any differently. I really don't. Just because he's black.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, honestly. I've tried to find this. It's been very hard to find because, again, this is not what the media wants you to see. But I'm pretty sure there's instances of. I had found a guy, a black guy that, again, stereotypical looking black dude, dark skin, dreads, whatever. He was in school.
Not Obama Kamala black.
Yeah, not Obama Kamala black, but actually black. He was in the school with a gun and some drugs on him. At a school. This happened like a couple days ago. I think maybe even yesterday. It was apprehended, arrested, and wasn't killed. Had a weapon on him and all that. And the thing is that I'm pretty sure that, again, 375 million police interactions every single year.
Is that number right? I've heard you use that number. I'm like, that's more than the American. That's like every person in the country including children, having a police interaction.
Well, police interaction probably is. But if you think about it, how many times you interact with the police at least once a year?
Probably, on average,
like giving a traffic stop.
You'll get a police. So this is just police interaction.
Actions, yeah. I don't know how they come up with these statistics, but regardless.
But this is not even them having to give you a ticket or book you or anything. This is of course, So
the thing again, but I think it's fitting because I can use that because you're pushing the narrative that if I walk out of the door, I might get shot by the police. So, I need to. Okay, well, every time I interact with the police, 365 million times.
Excuse me. Oh, a Negro lives there. Just wait for him to walk out. Here come. Oh, got him.
Exactly.
Good one there, Deputy Jimmy.
Exactly. So, the thing is that, there are incidents. I'm pretty sure.
Walk out, yeah.
I'm pretty sure there are incidents where a black person is armed or whatever, and they get arrested and it's fine. They walk.
That happens at once somewhere in the country, at least once every day.
And the thing is that they try. This is other narrative that white people never get shot by the cops. I'm like, bro, you're out of your mind. At least 400 to 500 times per year, a white person is shot and killed by the cops. Like. So they're just trying to act like the police just treat white people like I don't know, like kids or something. I don't know what they expect, bro. Like I really don't understand.
Look at that white dude. Look at that dude committing arson, or look at that. Most of these school shootings. Most of these, crazy, like just out of this world. violent crimes that you see, mass shootings, most of the time, what are they? White
White
dudes.
people, yeah, they are
Yeah.
white, and they try
Who
to
is
use this
who was Vegas? Old white dude.
white
Who
guy,
was
yeah,
who was El
and
Paso? White dude saying
yep,
he hates immigrants. He hates Mexicans. All these crazy ass crimes are done by white dudes.
exactly. And I've
They and
seen, I
they
mean,
either and they
again,
either get booked, they get shot up, or they get killed by the cops.
exactly. I mean, and the thing is that I've seen, I mean, they try to perpetuate these false narratives, like with Dylan Roof, right? Where they try to act like the police apprehended Dylan Ruth and took him to Burger King. That's not what happened. First of all, when you have a suspect in custody, if the suspect says, "I want food" or "I need something to eat," you have to get the guy some food, because it's about how you treat that. There's laws regarding how you can treat, um, suspects in custody, right? So they went and got him some Burger King. But the story is that they pulled up with Dylan Roof at Burger King, had him go up to the counter and order some food. That's the story that they try to tell people. Is like that's just not
You
true.
you better order me up a Whopper.
Why?
I'm gonna kill your ass.
I'm a kid.
Like,
Exactly. They try to act like they treat like they pulled up
you
to
bro,
Burger King.
they seriously rely on people that support them on just being like completely
Ignorant,
ignorant.
ignorant, completely
I'm
ignorant.
not gonna say idiots because that's offensive, or
Yeah, I mean, well, I would just say ignorant. I mean, that's what it is.
oh, they forced him into the Burger King. Like they couldn't even make something more believable, like a donut shop. Like,
But even I saw a video of a dude, and again, this type of stuff don't get spread. This happened like 2014, 2015. And I will give credit to Black Lives Matter, because I think Black Lives Matter actually brought this up. But there was a white guy who was in a hotel, and he got the cops called on him. I think he might have, I don't know if he stuck an assault rifle out of the window or something. He was doing something.
he was
But
just
anyways,
like flashing his gun, basically.
yeah, or
Just
something, maybe. I don't know. But he was on like a work trip or something. I don't know exact circumstance, but all I do know is that there was a video of him in the hallway, basically drunk, begging for his life, while the police are basically, you know what I'm saying, got him at gunpoint. And he's so drunk that he can't really follow the police's orders to the T. And the cop ends up shooting him. I mean, the dude obviously was not any type of threat, right? And he was trying to follow orders. And that, again, that situation is super unfortunate. And that's one of those situations like, yeah, this is clear cut, you know what I'm saying? Like cops just being, trigger happy, right? But at the same
and that
time,
was on a Caucasian male.
yeah, that was on the Caucasian male. And the only thing, and at the same time, again, they don't that doesn't fit the narrative. That's why it doesn't get popular. Because even a situation was like, bro, this is what you're talking about. This is what you say you're trying to fight. But they don't use the legitimate situations because it doesn't fit the race narrative. And I think that's the worst part about this whole thing, is that you have legitimate examples that aren't getting used because it doesn't fit the race narrative. And it's like, bro, the cops are an issue for all communities, right? Police, if you're going to paint this really statistically insignificant issue as an issue, you can't just say it's just an issue for black people. It's just not. It's an issue for everybody. Hispanics, I think, what, 120 to 150 Hispanics are killed per year by the cops. I mean, again, at black people about 200 to 250 a year, and white people about 300 to 400 a year. That's just how it kind of breaks down in the statistics, man.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think there's a big hypocrisy when it comes to, a 5-year-old child like Cannon Hinton being murdered by that 25-year-old black man, and that not really making any news at all besides local North Carolina news. If it wasn't for conservative news sources, like I think Fox covered it for like a day, and then Ben Shapiro made an episode about it, none of us would even know.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
But we know that if that was a white dude killing a black child, that would have been game over.
Oh yeah, it would have been a national story. It would have been uproar. It would have been, especially if the dude wasn't arrested immediately or killed on the spot, right? Like if you would have got arrested, they would have uproar. You should have killed him on the spot. That's what they would have said, right? But see, again, they don't care about David Dorn. They don't care about David Dorn. They didn't care about Cannon Hewitt. They didn't care about the white dude that I was telling you about that got shot in the hotel. They don't care about legitimate instances of injustice and wrongdoing. What they care about is the incidences where criminals are being killed that are doing dumb things that fit their race narrative. So
where it's obvious to make it look like the cop was in wrongdoing because they don't give out all the facts.
They don't give out all the facts.
Yes, we see that the cop used some pretty, excessive is a relevant term to fit their bill. Like, it's obvious that the police officer used a heightened form of, force, but who was he dealing with? What was that person doing? If you just tell me black dude who, and you don't tell me anything else, you just say black dude gets shot such and such amount, X amount of times, you're like by a white cop. Like, first of all, the fact that you bring up the races is already polarizing. Black dude, white cop,
And
and
when it's
saying
a black cop, they say, well, it's systemic. That's what they go to. That's what they go to. It
yeah,
always starts with individual personal
they try
racist.
to
He's a personal
they
racist until it's
try
a
to make
black
it seem
man.
like, yeah, and then it's systemic when it's a black man because they can't pull an individual race
They
card.
can't just they can't.
But it's like they basically make it sound like it was just a black man who was just there. He was just walking down. He was just chilling. Like a black man just pops up. A cop pulls up, shoots him, and then it's a
Bam, man. Yeah, it was over. Like
cop comes up. Oh, look at that. Oh, look at that Negro. Pfft, done. Like what? No. Like
that's not what's
are you
happening, bro.
serious? Like
It's not
no.
what's
But
happening.
and I think an interesting point to divulge, to dive into, to divulge a little bit on this is kind of just that double standard, that hypocrisy within BLM as an organization as a whole. Because I think you specifically, you in particular, did some research on BLM on their website about what they're about and kind of really what they promote. And it seems to me like the black man is seldom referred to in their About Me page.
Yeah, you trying to get me wild up on this one. Yeah, man. Again, Black Lives Matter, man. It's like, you know, if you gonna pick a name like Black Lives Matter, please make sure that you live up to the name. You
Mm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
make sure that you care about all Black lives. Because when you do this political stuff, man, people, you know why politicians always name bills stuff like the Freedom Bill or the
Civil rights
resurrect the post office bill or
or Civil
some
Rights
some
Act.
civil rights act, something that you cannot disagree with. You cannot disagree. And I'm not saying that. The thing is that for whatever reason, Black Lives Matter has found a way for people to disagree with that statement. That's how messed up their messaging is. That's how bad they've screwed over this movement.
By
That they
saying,
have is that
and especially with attacking all lives matter as racist.
yeah, and I feel like that back and forth is just so dumb. At the end of the day, it's like, well, Black lives can't matter to all lives. I mean, sorry, all lives matter to
Okay,
Black lives
man.
matter. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, well, if I'm white and you trying to tell me, and I'm educated, I'm white and I'm educated, I'm not talking about liberal college institution educated. I'm talking about well read in terms of my own research, for my own opinion, and you try to tell me that Black lives matter and that police brutality is a huge issue in the Black community. And I look at the statistics and I read it. I'm like, okay, you got 25 unarmed Black people shot, not even shot, just killed by police per year. So 25. Okay, it's like what? How many Black people in this country? I don't know. 10, 15, 20, 30 million. Okay. All right. Okay.
Something
And
like
then
that.
you got, okay, well, 230 something per year killed, shot by the cops. Okay, that's still not really that much, but there's a disparity with the statistics where Black people are 2, 3, 4 times more likely to be shot by the cops. Well, Black people also commit 50% of the murders
Right.
and 50% of the 50, 60% of the robbery. So, well, I guess that kind of explains the
They're
disparity
trying
there.
they're trying to put under a microscope this very, 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 very insignificant,
Exactly.
minute symptom, and not going after the disease itself.
Disease, and again, the disease is a
Which is
socioeconomic,
going back to the nuclear family
which
that they're
goes
trying
back
to
to
destroy.
nuclear family. Is like, again, my thing is, okay, dude try to argue with me in the comment section that same dude that was talking about um there was arguing about trying to tell me about Biden and how his comments about how his comments about his he wasn't saying what he was saying about Black people in terms of them being less
That's my Amazon
intellectually
Alexa.
diverse.
That's my Amazon Alexa people just saying. Anyway.
Yeah, tell her to shut the fuck up. But
I think I can lower her volume.
yeah, you need to, bro. For real. You getting in the way of my mojo.
I think.
But anyways,
oh no, yeah.
so same dude that was trying to argue me about that was like, Black Lives Matter is they're not trying to dismantle the nuclear family. They're trying to get rid of the idea that the nuclear family has to be a male and a female. And I'm like, dude, honestly, when I read their page, what they said to me is that we want to dismantle the idea of the nuclear family being needed by having a communal, basically having a community. So, for example, I feel like they would support a community of women, single mothers, who basically take care of each other in the community. And I'm like, is that already not kind of what's going on in these ghettos across the United States, where there's no fathers in the house and you have all these essentially women taking care of their kids with other women, right? Like essentially, right? These single parent households. So my interpretation of it is that they are trying to get rid of nuclear family because, again, you need a father and a mother, and there's nothing wrong with that, man. It's nothing wrong with that.
I'm ready to unleash on that. Yeah, absolutely. Look, first of all, you trying to mess with the nuclear family in and of itself is already going to cause tectonic shifting within society. That's the bedrock of society. And traditionally, what do we teach our kids? That, in order to create life, you need a man and a woman, so it's only proper for those to be the two individuals. You have that, you have that contrast in, the female sensitive factor and then the male dominant factor in raising children, so that they get exposure to both genders during their upbringing. And, that's just the natural cycle of things. That's what a nuclear family is. That's how it's been. That's how, we have come to naturally, form all these customs and these laws around that. What do you gain from trying to mess with that?
Nothing. They trying to push
nothing.
See, my thing is that they're trying to
push that because it weakens the community, and it has more people relying on the government, which is exactly what you want.
Well, put it this way: I don't necessarily know if they know that it weakens the community, but I do know that the Democrats know it weakens the community, and that's why the Democrats are behind it. And my thing is that they try to do this thing where it's now all black trans lives matter, or black gay lives matter, and it's like y'all group has been co-opted by white liberals and the LGBTQI ABCGD community. Like, it's been co-opted. It's not even about police brutality anymore. It's about some weird form of communism. Seriously.
It's weird form of perversion of all this stuff. Look, I mean all that stuff is I think, well, that's something that we're gonna divulge into more so when we talk about sports and Hollywood here in a bit. But yeah, really they're just trying to destroy the family to just weaken the population. It's really what it is. People want to try to keep this at a surface level. Look, the best thing I can do to combat this is just really take this to an even deeper layer, which is, that you're going to dismantle the family. There's been scientific studies that shows that children that grow up in homosexual households because they were adopted or in vitro or whatever grow up with social problems. We know this is we know this to be true. And why are you attacking? What is wrong with the nuclear family as it is, where a man and a woman naturally have a baby and they raise that child or childs into adulthood or early adulthood or whatever.
Patriarchy.
Exactly.
They want to take down the
patriarchy to weaken that masculine element within this country. And then, I don't even want to know if I want to go on the international scale just yet, but so that this country can be weakened into submission. At the end of the day, what is one of the biggest factors in trying to fight back? That raw aggression, that raw testosterone, that raw anger and being enraged by things, being completely turned ass backwards. it's that grit, that, having a spine, having a backbone to say, no, this is wrong. And you're trying to take all that away by taking away this whole idea of the dominant male in order to weaken the populace so that they're more easy to control. I mean, you keep liquor stores and all this stuff open, but you close down gyms during this corona thing so the population can't be healthy and men, can't, keep, exerting, their own, force and whatnot. And this whole thing about you acting like that, you being an asshole. No, I'm not an asshole. I'm just, trying to be a traditional dude.
There's nothing wrong being traditional. There's nothing wrong being
traditional. It's all this whole thing to try to shake things up that don't even have to be shaken in the first place, to try to, and again, like you were saying, we already see a bunch of women who are single mothers, trying to, support each other, but those problems are still occurring.
Yeah, there's no dominant. You need a male to raise kids. You need a masculine. That's why God created man and woman, right? Like that's why they come together.
They are trying to destroy that nuclear family because, again, weakens the populace, makes them easier to control. I mean, it all really feeds on itself. But so, one last thing that I want to talk about. I think one last thing that you probably would want to talk about with regards to these protests is probably the most recent thing with Rand Paul, correct? Or is there anything else?
I'm gonna talk. We're gonna touch on that for like 5 minutes, and then we're gonna keep moving because this is kind of dragging.
Yeah.
We almost at 2 hours. So, with Rand Paul. So
because that is the most recent thing that happened just last night after Trump's acceptance speech of the RNC that wrapped up the RNC.
Yeah.
These people can't even sit these people can't even sit out for I'm going to use football terminology. They can't even sit out for one drive, bro. One drive.
One play, bro. Not even a drive, like a play. One snap.
They can't even sit on the sideline. They got to mess and be a buzzkill for everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So with Rand Paul, and it's I already did a video on this, so I ain't gonna really, I ain't ready to get too deep into it. But
well, then that just gives me time for me to give my point, and then we can move on. Yeah.
Yeah. So with Rand Paul, these people was protesting Rand Paul, talking about say her name with Breonna Taylor. And I'm like, this is the same senator from Kentucky, the same state in which Breonna Taylor is from, who introduced the Justice for Breonna Taylor Act. Like, what more do you want, bruh? Like, these people are more concerned about getting revenge and arresting these cops for something that they legally cannot be arrested for. There's no legal precedence to arrest these cops for what happened. They had a legal warrant. Her name was on the warrant. Her boyfriend's name was on the warrant. Doesn't matter if there was drugs there or not. They had the legal authority to do what they did. They can't be arrested because it is unclear who was the aggressor and who was acting in self-defense. If her boyfriend was acting, like I said, again, her boyfriend could have been acting in self-defense, which is probably why he was cleared of his charges. He had got charged with attempt to kill, to murder the cops. And they dropped those charges. But the cops can't be an aggressor legally in the line of duty in regards to self-defense. These are things I looked up. Right, the legal reason for why these cops are not being arrested, and that's it. It's unclear who can be the aggressive and who is acting in aggression and who is acting in self-defense. It's very unfortunate, but once you realize that, you understand. Okay, what else? Okay, what do we need to do then in order to prevent another Breonna Taylor? Because these cops are not getting arrested, and these people that keep talking about arrested cops either don't know the story or they just don't care. They don't care about truth. Right. And the thing is that for me, if I'm leading a movement like this with Breonna Taylor, I wouldn't focus on getting the cops arrested anymore because that's a lost battle. What I would focus on is how do I prevent another Breonna Taylor? And the best way to prevent another Breonna Taylor is to get rid of the no-knock warrant. Right. Which, again, it's been, that's kind of been a shaky thing, throughout history. People, especially libertarians, have been battling with, the idea that the cops can just pull up, to your crib and not knock and just bust into your crib. Right. Like, that's something where I think there's a real debate. And again, I think this happens so much when it comes to these shooters. It's the same thing with the Ahmaud Arbery thing. People are so caught up on the white and black aspect of it that they miss the opportunity to prevent another one of them from happening. Can Georgia law that allows citizens arrest, that allows citizens to basically arrest and apprehend other citizens that they believe are committing crimes, that's what you need to be looking at. That's what you have to be fighting, because again, being concerned with revenge is one thing, but trying to be concerned with the next person is what you really need to be trying to do. And nobody's talking about that law anymore, and nobody's talking about no knock warrants, because all they're focused on is racism and revenge. And again, it's a lack of leadership. And again, you see that why are we attacking Rand Paul? Rand Paul is your friend. Rand Paul is not your enemy. Rand Paul is a Republican that's trying to help you. You should be trying to talk to him. You should be trying to say, why aren't we getting this bill passed? What can we do to get this bill passed? What can we do to pressure the Senate to take a look at this bill and let's get this signed into law? That's what you should be trying to do. But instead, they're concerned about getting revenge. They're not concerned about trying to prevent any of this stuff from happening anymore. And the Democrats aren't concerned about it because it plays into their agenda, right? Like, it benefits them.
Yeah, absolutely. Without a doubt. First of all, you know, like I just want to address that particular expression, demonstration. You know, you have to show respect for, you know, the Republicans convening in an environment like that, and then once President Trump, you know, concludes, you know, his speech, and then the senators and the congressmen all disperse, you know, back to their hotel rooms to, you know, go back to, you know, just to carry on, you know, from that event, and you know, just to, you know, keep it going. You know, you attacking them isn't really necessarily going to, you know, help push, you know, your effort any more so, because now you're just alienating them and you're just becoming an aggressor, which rarely causes people to open up to what you're trying to say, or to, you know, your point of view. Because look, we live in a civilized society where things are done in a certain way. Oh, America's built on racism. No, America's built on the idea of, on the principle of the exchange of different ideas. And so, you know, with that being the case, that has been very pivotal in us being able to reach where, you know, get to where we've gotten to today. But people try to make all these things, you know, they try to make all these demonstrations, and they try to use force to try to gain what they want. And really, you know, that's not going to get us anywhere. It's just going to you know, lead to the devolution of the country. And like you were saying, this is a guy who's actually trying to push for what you're trying to get done. So keep, you know, working towards that in an orderly manner, in a civil manner, with litigation, you know, legal, you know, action, and, you know, through the pass, you know, of legislature, and don't try to, be, you know, don't try to aggravate or act aggressive towards someone who is actually pushing for, you know, your own, you know, for justice on your end. There's nothing they can do about what's already been done, what's happened in the past. You know, that's entropy. That's wasted energy. That's energy that's being wasted as just heat, smoke. You know, it's done. It's over. So why are we seeing this happening? You know, let's dedicate some time to it, see if we can fix it, and get it fixed to where, you know, the no-knock warrant can be addressed and things of that nature. But again, address certain energy to that. I mean, direct certain energy to that and address it, you know, to the same degree at which it's an issue in and of itself, and then direct attention back to the real issues at hand, which is why the community is the way it is from the get-go. Does that make sense? Like, yeah, you're trying to 100%. You're like you're trying to attack all these little different instances, and you're trying to direct all this attention to this legislature that is going to just probably, you know, stop 10 instances from occurring each year, you know, bring it down from 25, bring it down to 15 or 10. And for millions of people who are, you know, living within the society that fit your demographic, that's fairly insignificant. And yeah, I mean, you trying to burn down a church on the other side of across the street from the White House just to make a statement doesn't really do anything. You're just agitating people of a certain, you know, well, you're really agitating everybody because you're committing arson. But, you know, thankfully the police officers, the law enforcement was there in full force to protect the congressman and to protect that church, and it eventually dissipated, at least from what I've heard. But yeah, I mean, at the point now where you're attacking congressmen, I mean, that really is showing that you are not people who are civilized enough to sit down and talk about these issues and try to come up with actual, real, tangible solutions. You're just people who want to throw a fit, scare people, cause unrest, commit violence, acts of violence, and trying to get what you want done through kicking and screaming, and which is completely infantile. And it's void of really getting anything done or really advancing any ground, uncontestedly, because no matter how much you think that, causing, this unrest and, attacking congressmen or lighting buildings on fire is advancing your agenda, it's not. The people who just want that to be the norm for the country to go into a complete hell, to be a complete hellhole, they're just using you as people who, they use as the indirect, the implied threat of, oh, vote for us or else this is what's going to happen. So really, you're just using these people to just threaten me into submission so I can, give into your grand agenda. Because as we've said before, this whole police brutality thing, people getting killed by the cops, it's a non-issue for almost any demographic, because the amount of occurrences that happen within that realm that fit that criteria each year is completely insignificant. And you trying to fix that, it's you trying to fix a little scrape that you've got on your arm when you've got
a bullet hole,
a bullet wound right by your heart. Yeah,
exactly.
So,
but the only way you can fix that bullet hole though in the heart, you got to do that yourself. You can't be getting on you. Exactly. That's why they don't want to do it, because that means you have to reflect inward and say, well, how can we solve our own problems? Because nobody's doing that.
It's so difficult for these people. Again, that's why it's very difficult for me to take this seriously, because I almost, I like to go into the facts of what happened, but again, with how much it happens and how much hypocrisy there is into it, I almost have trouble trying to take it seriously, because I know what your actual goal is. And obviously, you trying to make lives better for the Black community in America is not it, because you would be going about things much differently than how you are doing so right now. Because even if you get what you want with this, it's barely going to change a damn thing. Black interaction, African American interaction with police is not a major issue for these people. So it's just the perfect Trojan horse that the media uses to try to say that they are anti-racist.
Yeah, for real.
That's really what it is. So, that's kind of my take on it. But
yeah, man, I think that pretty much sums it up. So
yeah,
let's go ahead and move into the NBA boycott.
Right.
And
well, and just like one last thing on it, and we will. I just want to say, I just want to say it's very sad to see what's kind of going on in our cities. The Chicago violence, that mass looting in Chicago and Mag Mile was just a travesty. What's going on in New York? Rudy Giuliani is condemning it, saying it's awful what's going on there. Portland, Seattle. My heart goes out to all those people out there who are living with this, with this nuisance and with this inconvenience, to put it lightly, on a daily basis, because we really have to take our cities back from these Democrats who just want to cause all hell and blame it on Trump to try to get what they want. So
yeah, vote Democrat, they say, but y'all already running it. I don't know who y'all want to vote for. That's another thing too, and we can talk about, and this goes into the NBA boycott thing,
right? Of course.
Well. I mean, you got all these players out here, trying to make a stance. I don't have a problem with that. I really don't. But again, be educated in your stance. Mm-hmm. You have all these people like LeBron. He worked with Dodger Stadium or whatever, right? Again, California, to open that up as a registered polling place.
Nancy Pelosi is a California congresswoman. Kamala Harris is a California senator. It feels like California is just like a breeding ground for all this shit.
It is, but the thing is, my point is that who you vote for in why is California don't matter, bro? California going blue.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what I'm talking about, right? Mm-hmm. That's what I'm talking about. You put efforts into things that's like vote. Who you want us to vote for, bro? You want us to vote Democrat? Because again, the Democrats are running these cities, dog. I don't understand how you want me to keep voting for what's already going
Even
on.
that small town, even that small city in Wisconsin, even Kenosha has a
It was
Democrat
a
mayor.
Democrat, yeah. And people try to tell you, oh, well, Democrats are likely to be running these cities because of large population. Kenosha has 100,000 people, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
At the end of the day, I mean, like, what? Only Republicans are running small towns. Like, only Republicans only get elected to run small town. Well, maybe we need to give Republicans some shots running these big cities, right? Like, maybe we need to get some Republicans some shots because
Just like how in Miami, they shut out that BLM. They shut down that BLM. Yeah.
Yeah. They want Republican governors like, right? I mean, Republican
Mayor.
mayor was like, I ain't playing around with y'all. I ain't playing with y'all. And that whole police unit was black and brown people. That was beautiful. That was a thing of beauty. That was a thing of beauty. The liberals, they didn't talk about that. They didn't talk about Miami. You know why they didn't talk about Miami? Because it don't fit the narrative.
Absolutely not.
It don't fit the narrative.
It literally crushes. It's basically the exact opposite of their narrative. Literally,
It is the opposite.
Miami was, yeah.
Yeah, it is. They won't bout it. They won't bout it, and they won't having it. And guess what? Things are quelled in Miami. You see, people out there in Miami protesting right now. No, sir, because they know the cops are gonna whoop that ass. Like they got full reign to do what they gotta do. They got full reign. So with the NBA boycott.
Well, sports in general, but the NBA is at like the forefront of it.
Yeah. So we ain't got to spend too much time on this, but I just want to say, like, so with NBA boycott, man, it's just a lack of leadership, man.
First of all, it was a front. It was a stunt.
It's a front. Yeah, it's 100% a front because y'all boycott for one day, bruh. You ain't cost nobody no money. I mean, don't get me wrong. A boycott is a power move, right? Because essentially what you're saying is that we're going to cut off your money, but you also are cutting off your own money. So you have to be willing to sacrifice for each other. That means you need to plan out ahead before you do something like this. But again, there was no plan because there is no leadership. And the funny part about this is that, and I might make a video on this, I'm probably going to end up making a video on this, is that it came out that LeBron, the young players, actually have been turned off by LeBron and his leadership doing this whole thing because LeBron is trying to act like he's above everybody. And it's like, bro, LeBron, you didn't start this boycott. You weren't man enough to start this boycott, one, and then you trying to take over the boycott like you leading it. And it's like, bro, it's like, dude, you like LeBron gets so much more credit than what he should get, man, for a lot of stuff. It's like, dude, you're a great basketball player. You know, you were born with genetics of a god for playing basketball. But that's it, bro. That you don't try to sit and try to frame LeBron as
as some type of like
intellectual,
as some type of prophet.
Yeah, some type of prophet, some type of intellectual, some type of second coming. It's like, and that's what the media tries to do to this dude. I'm like, bro, like, again,
he's a basketball player.
He's a basketball player, dog. And people get mad because Laura Ingraham told her to shut up and dribble, but she gave him some good advice. It's like, you're not educated on these issues. You are not equipped to lead this type of movement.
Show that you support it one way or the other, and that's it.
Yeah, and that's it.
If you really have to have something to do, if you have to have something to do to do with it, if you have to get involved, just leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, he got his I Promise school. He's done some things for his community. Like, I'm not knocking that. I'm not saying that's what we should have. We should have great stuff, more schools, more, things like that. But you got to do more.
Why not push that?
Yeah, why not push that?
As opposed to just getting on this whole like anti-police bandwagon.
Exactly. You getting on anti-police. Why at the same time you living in Brentwood? You living out there in Brentwood with all the white people that you claim to be so racist. You ain't living in the hood.
Well, basically, what you're saying is like as soon as you walk out, your neighbors try to lynch you. Basically,
yeah,
right?
But it's exactly according to you. You walking down the street in Brentwood, by the way, multi-million dollar houses in L.A., right? like according to you, you should be lynched. It's that's what I'm saying, bro. It's the hypocrisy. It's like when you try when that's the way you live it and you're the spokesperson for. I'm not saying you can't. I'm not saying you can't be the spokesperson, but what I'm saying is that this is why you have to be educated, because you have to be very cognizant about the things that you say. You have to be very tactful and make sure that, okay, I am trying to unify people. I am trying to get people on board. When I go on social media and I tell people that black people are being killed in the streets just for being black, and that we can't even go outside for a run, that's not going to sit well with people who quickly think that, okay, LeBron, you're living in Brentwood, you're black, probably gonna be a billionaire living in Brentwood. It's just gonna be a disconnect, because you got to understand, you're trying to get the common man on your side. The common man is making $40,000-$50,000 a year, living in, middle class, lower middle class America. That's the common man, right? And when you tell the common man that a rich person like you, a rich black person like you, is living in hell, they're not gonna relate. They're not gonna relate. They're gonna turn it off.
They're basically like they're just not gonna buy it. Yeah,
they're not gonna buy it. And then now everything else that comes out of your mouth, everything else that comes out of your mouth, regardless of whether it's true or not, is gonna be met with deaf ears, because you've already turned them off with statements that you cannot agree with.
You've muted yourself. Yeah,
you've already muted yourself.
Yeah.
And again, LeBron James is not equipped to lead anything like this.
He can give his opinion just like anybody else, but not any further, but no further than that.
He really need to keep his opinion to himself, because his opinion in and of itself makes people go out and do stuff, right? That's why a lot of these protests are being led.
So you're saying because he's such a public figure, he should be careful, because his word can,
exactly. His word gets people.
It can have ripple effects.
It can have ripple, and it has been having ripple effects. It's like, bro, there's no way in hell Bronny James is gonna be out there protesting. There's no way in hell I'm gonna see any of your sons out there. LeBron James Jr. is not gonna be out there protesting. LeBron James is not gonna be out there protesting. You're telling people to do things that you would not do
yourself.
You would not do yourself.
Makes it a lot harder to see you as authentic. Yeah.
So I mean, that's just my thing with the NBA, the protests, and apparently only 20% of the league, the players in the NBA, are actually registered to vote. So again, y'all doing all this talking and talking about demanding action from what?
Pull up that stat.
Yeah, you said what?
You pulled up that stat. Only 20% are registered to vote.
Well, I saw it right before we hopped on, because that LeBron story came out about him turning people off. But I mean, y'all not even. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, like you see the NBA's ratings just going in the tank. And at the end of the day, people rely on you so much to be that one out from all this chaos. Sports, is supposed to unify people, bring people together to, enjoy, a game that we've all grown up with and has grown close to us, since childhood. That's for most sports. You're supposed to be separate from that. If you want to voice your opinion very briefly, that's fine. But the NBA, like you said, is just hamstringing itself with all this stuff, because it's turning a lot of people off, because people just flat out do not want to be exposed to politics when they're watching sports. They just don't.
They just don't. People just don't, man. And I think that's something that, again, the NBA is useless to me, because everybody that's watching the NBA agrees with your stance, bruh.
For the most part, yeah.
For the most part, they already agree, so you're not talking to anybody. And then again, with these negotiations, because it really wasn't a negotiation when they boycotted. What happened was that their owners came and walked in the room and was like, listen here, Negroes. We paid $170 million for this goddamn bubble. Now y'all gonna get out there, you gonna play. Or you ain't gonna get paid. And that's what happened, and it was over. Now the thing is that y'all for one day went.
I don't want to make you repeat yourself too much, because I'm pretty sure you've covered this in a video. I just want to make sure that I'm aware of that. Yeah, but I mean, it's always good to reiterate. But as you were saying, no, but you go ahead and finish your thought.
Yeah, I mean, basically what I was saying is that essentially, they did this for one day, and all you got out of it was the NBA agreeing to do more woke stuff, to be more woke. That's all they got out there. It's like, we need more awareness. Who's not aware of this?
Basically making it more sour for people to digest.
Who's not aware of this? We're all aware of this. So again, I don't understand I hate the awareness thing, because it's like, bro, again,
we are aware.
We are aware.
Basically just like one huge we get it.
We get it. We understand. Like, we know. Yeah. So I mean, that's basically all I really got to say about the NBA.
That's again. But you know what? I'll just say this before we move on. So, like, you know what the significance of that is that we really shouldn't bother to delve too much into sports with all this, anyways, because sports shouldn't be a part of this to begin with. They
No,
should
you're
not.
right. You're right.
But people who get on this woke train too much, they bastardize that word so much. They're the woke ones. They're
Yeah.
just they're just kneecapping themselves because people don't want to get exposed to that when they're watching sports. They can turn on CNN and get that all day. Basically, if they want to. So again, we get enough of that. We just want you guys to, watch these, people who are at the best of what they do, play this game that we all love, and have fun cheering for our team, and just enjoy ourselves like that. Enjoy the camaraderie of being around our friends during experiences like that. That's what we want when we consume sports and these these sporting events. But they're trying to mix the two, and man, they're trying to mix blood with water, and it's just not working out. It's really backfiring in their face. Fairly significantly, with quite an apprehension, I might add. So, we'll see what that, we'll see where that all goes, how that kind of evolves as time goes on and the season continues. But yeah, man, keep sports out of it, basically.
Yeah, man. So
Corona. Well, no, before that, well, I mean, I guess they both kind of go into that. I know one thing you definitely have not touched on yet is tech censorship.
Yeah, well, again, I'm gonna keep it quick on this.
Well, Corona kind of goes into that. That can just kind of be like a subtopic of coronavirus. So,
yeah.
Corona, but you haven't talked about Corona at all, really.
Well, no, this is your subject. Well, I'm gonna talk about it because I have Corona, or at least I had it for the last week, so I have firsthand experience with it.
Well, you're about getting out the tunnel with it, because you got it what, like not last Saturday, but the week before, so you've had it for almost under 2 weeks.
Yeah, almost 2 weeks. Yeah,
pretty much done with it.
Yeah, pretty much done with it. It's
so
big bad Corona.
So that has destroyed all these people's lives and been the catalyst for all this stuff. Because I think really, if it wasn't for people getting so kind of messed up in the head with all this Corona lockdown shit, then the BLM and the riots wouldn't have been so crazy. But it's just people needed some out. But anyways, yeah. So I'm very curious to hear your personal experience with it, and then I'll go into all my stuff afterwards.
Yeah, you're gonna handle basically this subject because I know how passionate you feel about Corona. But keep in mind, we had 2 hours, and
it's not just about Corona. It's about like everything. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. We had 2 hours.
Corona's kind of been the big thing to shift all this stuff. Yeah. Make it a huge mess.
I'm trying to wrap this up in like 30 minutes, just so that you know.
Well, I gotta
eat.
Well, yeah, it's 8:00, 8:30, something like that. Yeah. That's
so fine. I'm just saying, keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. So with Corona, I got Corona, and it was at the first couple of days. It was definitely I was definitely sick, but not definitely not flu sick. Not really even bad cold sick, just kind of like mild cold, like having chest pains, a little bit harder to breathe. You can probably still kind of hear it in my voice a little bit, but
boo hoo.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it was
justifying all this bullshit for some chest.
Yeah, it's like having a mild cold, man. It really is. It's like having a mild,
not even a mild flu,
not a mild cold. Yeah, no, flu put you out, dog. Flu, Corona, the Corona ain't got nothing on the flu. Me personally, because I'm gonna tell you, the flu put you in bed. If I with Corona, I could have walked. I probably could have kept working out. I probably could have kept doing a lot of stuff. Otherwise, because
as long as they wouldn't call you a bioterrorist for spreading it, yeah.
Basically. Yeah, I mean, Corona is, like I said, it's real. I'm not gonna be one of the people to say it's not real, because I know it's real firsthand. But in terms of how people handling it, you can talk about that. I ain't gonna really get too much.
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, let me say this: the stupidest thing you can say is people out there think it's fake. No. Stop it. It's not that the pathogen is fake. It's that all of this response and reaction and fear mongering is what we're contesting. But anyways, so we see this thing that they are trying to completely overblow in terms of its lethality and in terms of its significance, in terms of its symptoms, with respect to the severity of it. And they're basically using all this infection. It's not a disease. It's a temporary infection, just like a flu or a cold or whatever, to turn everything on its head. And I mean, the thing that to me is just completely asinine and just completely insane is that they use this thing um, to try to justify the destruction of the middle class.
Yeah.
And who was benefiting mostly from all this stuff? These tech giants have had their wealth soar while the small businesses have been getting piked. They're the ones forced to shut down, but these big
No
businesses,
condom. No condom.
right, absolutely, yeah,
No lube.
just letting them have it. So, I mean, there. I feel like Corona even is almost an afterthought with all these protests now. Isn't that funny? People almost forget nowadays why we saw. I mean, how long have we been at 170, 180,000 deaths? For like a month, 2 months now? Well, weeks, definitely.
Yeah.
The death rate's not going up that much, but more and more people are getting infected. But there is no way for you to be able to track how many people actually get infected because most of those people don't even bother going to the hospital or getting checked.
My brother and my nephew spent like the whole week. I mean, my brother gave me a haircut like 2 days, 3 days after I got infected, and he did not get it. My nephew spent like 2 days with me working out together, sharing, exchanging sweat basically, and he did not get it. So I'm pretty sure. I feel like there's some people, people that was at the event that I got it from, that interacted with people didn't get it. I mean, a lot of people did get it, but
most of them are doing fine. Yeah,
yeah, everybody's doing fine, but I think everybody's had it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've even had a week or two where I was I had raspy throat, trouble breathing, I was coughing a little bit. I mean, I was exposed to a good friend of mine. She spent a vacation. She spent some time in Japan and in South Korea, right when Corona was a huge thing back in March. Um, so she was in Asia right when Corona was had the outbreak, quote unquote, and they didn't allow her to go back to work. And like I interacted with her like at my gym literally a week before quarantine hit. So I probably got exposed to it right there. Like we hugged and everything, and I mean, again, a lot of people are asymptomatic. I mean, it's just there's so many angles with this that you can take, but basically, like the biggest things are any type of hope or hopeful article that comes out to try to calm people down and say people, hey, this isn't that bad, they shut it down. Whether it's, hey, masks don't work that well, which we've seen from the CDC, or hey, hydroxychloroquine has some promise, or hey, this new plasma breakthrough that they're conducting right now that Trump has put into action about a week ago, that doesn't get much media coverage. They were all just trying to fan the flames of this fear, and they even had people divided on who takes it seriously and who doesn't. People are divided on racial issues. People are divided on the pathogen, this virus, and trying to divide people from age, saying old people have it worse, so young people should respect it because of old people. Look, if you have a bad flu and you're with a person who's very old or terminally ill, that flu might be the nail in the coffin,
Yeah.
Just like anything else. So how is this any different? This thing is less serious than even a bad flu, and it's causing all this mayhem and all this havoc. And really, all it's really doing is causing all the suffering within the greater populace, with the isolation of people, getting people Zoom fatigued, higher crime rates happening in cities. Which is funny too, because as soon as they had that mask mandate in Houston, the police chief or like the director of the police union came out and said, "Hey, we're stretched too thin already to try to mandate and try to enforce a mask mandate because I mean, crime has risen 33%. But you don't hear that from the city council, not to mention they're all a bunch of Democrats themselves.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they're using this thing that has completely, divided people. There's no exchange of ideas going on. A lot of the only people who are exchanging any ideas or anything with these protests to begin with, if you want to bring it back to the protests, is people who are over there, who are on the streets fighting. Excuse me, either one side trying to loot and the other side trying to stop them, or people getting into it on the street while these riots are going on, or behind the keyboard on social media. So, I mean, this thing has been dragged out far too long. We know that this thing is contagious, but so is the swine flu, when it infected 1.4 billion people on a high end, which is at the time, I think, was 1 in every 4 human beings on the planet, 25% of the population. And this thing has probably infected just as much, if not more. Barely has a higher death rate, with the death rate being completely overblown and corrupted and muddled with poor data, where someone who had corona but was killed by something like a projectile or a vehicle incident, or maybe even they were killed in a crime altercation, a gun bullet, whatever, coronavirus killed them. You get corona, you feel you have symptoms, you get tested positive, but you're not high risk. You're low risk for a death, quote unquote. And then you walk outside, you get hit by a bus, corona killed you. Also, this constant fear mongering they're putting in, and
I just caught on to what you just said. Walk outside, get hit by a bus, and corona killed you. That's funny.
Exactly. And saying that, all these people are going to die from corona who aren't social distancing at these Trump events. Like, look, if that's the same card you're pulling and people are still showing up to these things and they're fine, that argument is going to be void.
Well, it didn't help when Herman Cain died. That didn't help.
Herman Cain was that black congressman, correct?
No, he was a black businessman. He owned Godfather's Pizza, and he ran for president back in 2008.
He is an actual great example of a black man who rose through the ranks.
Yeah, great example. And that's who runs.
But when he passed away, barely anything. But George Floyd, who's a criminal, got a military type ceremony.
Exactly.
Yeah, but so he died from corona, they say.
Yeah, he died from corona, but again, he was like 70-something years old. He was a survivor of colon cancer.
Okay.
So he had already
had some predispositions. And again, you got to understand, a lot of these people who are dying were already statistically supposed to die anyways.
Yeah.
And look, the one thing that I despise about this more than anything is that the left tries to use this as a ploy that they care about life and we don't. That is the biggest load of complete malarkey, hogwash, nonsense, bullshit. Because they're trying to say that they're the righteous ones because they care about life. Well, I mean, just to kind of, bring in some numbers in here, since, statistics are rarely brought in, or at least, broader statistics, whenever you have tunnel vision with subjects, it's very dangerous because, one thing can seem awful, but when you put it in the grand scheme of things, of other things going on, it's really just kind of not even comparable to awful things that go on in this world every year. I mean, 8.5 million people have died from communicable disease. 322,000, and these are clean statistics, because obviously they're not trying to, BS the flu. 322,000 people have died from the flu, which is just under half of these corrupted and these padded stats from the coronavirus. Which isn't even a real name for an infection, by the way. It sounds more ominous, and it's better for marketing purposes. Again, I emphasize the word marketing to use the coronavirus than to actually give it a name like SARS or MERS. Around 5 million children under the age of 5 have died this year. 28 million abortions. 23,000 mothers have died during birth. 42 million people have been infected with AIDS, and 1.1 million people have died from AIDS. 5.4 million people have died from cancer, 3.3 million from smoking, 1.6 from alcohol, 700,000 suicides, almost 900,000 people have died from traffic accidents. I mean, you try to use this thing like big bad corona, and it really is almost a non-issue. I am so sorry to say that, but it really is.
You feel
When
about Corona the same way I feel about basic police brutality.
Well, yeah, because it's the same thing. It's these things that they try to use to push their narrative at the end of the day. They
Yeah.
are getting people to submit to this martial law, this government oppression through the disguise of, oh, this virus is so bad it might kill you. No, you don't give a damn about these people's individual lives. You give a damn about these people submitting to your will and them listening to you and following your every order. But as far as the people who die from all this other stuff, you don't care about them. They don't matter. Oh, and then they try to put, are Republicans okay with that 180,000? Don't immediately try to put me in a position, in a disadvantageous position in the discussion by saying, do I care, by immediately assuming that 180,000 deaths is the worst thing that to happen all year. A better question is, are these 180,000 padded U.S. Coronavirus deaths the biggest issue to worry about in this day and age right now when it comes to infectious disease or when it comes to our health? No, it absolutely is not. No, it isn't. And the fact that you're using it as a vehicle to get people to submit to authoritarian statism is a blatant use of the old Trojan horse strategy. You're trying to overburden the system. You're trying to put a straw man and say that, since you allowed 100-something thousand people to die from coronavirus as opposed to all these other things that kill way more people, the system is flawed. We need a change. No, it's barely even an issue in the grand scheme of things. And the fact that they try to turn this on Trump when he's done everything under the sun to try to mitigate this while keeping the economy in as much tact as possible. Because remember, it's not unilateral. It's a balancing act. Yeah. These lockdowns carry consequences. More so than this virus has, not even arguably. And they keep trying to use this narrative that the virus is so bad that all of this is justified. No, and even Fauci, that dude is slimy to the touch. He comes out, he comes out and says that, this economic fallout is inconvenient. It's inconvenient. People losing their livelihoods is an inconvenience. No, me literally, I'm trying to use an example that's sophisticated. It's not crude, but it's still funny. Me having to, whenever I don't need much fast food, but them saying, sorry, me driving up to the fast food and, them having a sign on the intercom saying the intercom is broken, you must do in-store ordering. You have to order your food inside because the intercom's, broken, so I can't order my Big Mac, in the drive-thru. That's an inconvenience. Me waking up and, something's wrong with my shower handle, that's an inconvenience. Me having to wait, to use a machine, me having to wait, while I'm in a rush to get somewhere and, every traffic light turning red, while I'm trying to get there, that's an inconvenience. People literally losing their means of putting food on the table is an inconvenience. Are you kidding me? What kind of complete bastardization of the word inconvenience is that? No, that's not an inconvenience.
It's a stretch, bro.
Yes, absolutely. And so, and you see him on the cover of In Style magazine, just this dude, just a complete clown buffoon. I lost credibility in him. He lost, I lost, giving him credence, quite, a while ago by now. So, but, again, it just pains me to see how they're silencing people. When you see somebody and you can't see their entire face, it subconsciously causes you to not be able to trust them. It's hard to speak with these masks on. And again, this coronavirus does not merit quarantinable, it's not a quarantinable infection. It's not. It barely does any more damage than the flu does to most people. You keep trying to fearmonger people into submission. And again, really by now, if coronavirus was so bad, wouldn't it have like been caused a noticeable, amount of people to die by now if it really is justifiable for you to shut down the economy? Like I've been saying, if you're going to shut down everything after there's one infection, this thing better damn near be killing everything in sight. But it's not. It's not doing that, not even close. And you use this as a ploy to, again, just advance your agenda. Say it's all Trump's fault, overburden the system, try to hold it to these unattainable standards, while all at the same time not even touching China's fault in all this, where it came from, the government that was able to probably shut this down and control this from the get-go without it being a worldwide pandemic or whatever. It's not China's fault. It's all Trump. Trump probably did what he could do in trying to contain it after it got here, because China maybe had some plans of how they were going to spread it in the U.S. by sending people to a bunch of different airports, but that never gets brought up. And again, you can't even use the argument that it's a pandemic that's justifying all this, because from what I remember, the swine flu was a pandemic. Why didn't you do any of this during that pandemic? Oh, because Obama was president and everything was good? So you didn't have to fuck up the system because since the guy who you wanted to be president was in power, there was no need to try to ruin the system and blame it on him to try to get him out of office? So that's why this all to me is complete heinous with these university closures. I mean, let it spread, let people develop herd immunity. These universities are where, young people are interacting with older people very, very little. And that's probably the best place for this to be spreading. The media hypocrisy is immense in this by saying that this thing is so terrible and it's the Republicans or whatnot, when really the worst cases are in Democrat-run cities, and the places where the economies are doing the worst are in Democrat-run cities where the shutdowns are completely over the top. And then the mask mandate. So now you're trying to say that if Joe Biden's elected, he'll shut down the economy again if the scientists say so, and you're going to make me wear a mask for 3 months outside.
Yeah, this is what they voting for, bro. This is what they running on. That's why they ain't got nothing to say.
You are voting for authoritarian rule. That's what you're voting for. This coronavirus has literally caused people to become sedated to that. There should be riots on the streets with people who have lost their livelihoods from this, but oh no. They're not rather rioting. You know who is rioting? People who support the BLM, bullshit, and they go out and they loot these businesses that were shut down. So not only were these businesses forcibly shut down from Corona, now they can't even come back because they were destroyed because of these Black Lives Matter riots. So, I mean, it's all feeding into itself, and it's all feeding into this perfect narrative that the current system is responsible for all this. So we need to change. Again, perfect scapegoat strategy to try to hold a system to unattainable standards, and just try to use that as the go-to be all end all for why the administration has to be changed when you're the one orchestrating this chaos in the first place. So yeah, I mean, there are all these things that play into it, and then the text censorship is the worst, where anything that comes out that is positive news about Corona is silenced because they do not want the people to have any hope. Only media and literature and pieces and articles that promote how awful this thing is.
We got 10 minutes, by the way. I'm just letting you know. We won't get to the last topic. It's fine. We can end on this.
No. We will. We will.
Bro, 10 minutes. I got to dip. Yeah, I really got to eat for the restaurant closes.
These are all bullet point things. But so, yeah, I mean, that's just really kind of, how I feel about Corona. And then moving forward, based off of what we see in the comments, people bringing up certain, arguments off of what I'm saying with Corona specifically, I would love to see what they bring up certain article pieces that, people want to argue about with me that will support each side of the narrative. But for right now, you know where I stand. Masks are not that effective. Hydroxychloroquine and everything is not being met with the same apprehension on the opposite end, saying masks work, HCQ doesn't. When there should be debate on both of these topics to see what really is the conclusion. But I'm saying anything that Trump supports is snake oil. Anything that you guys support should be made into law. And, that to me is such a double standard, hypocritical. Again, it's all hypocrisy. It's all lies, fear mongering. And it really is just becoming just a dry, drawn out ploy for you to get people to, submit to communism, authoritarianism, all this, all these things that take away our individual rights. Before they know it, they'll be completely gone if people don't stand up to this lunacy and they don't see what's actually going on. But yeah,
I think the biggest piece of hypocrisy comes from the treatment of these protests versus everything else. I think that just kind of clearly tells you kind of what the jig is, right? Like what's going on.
That gives you the gist. Yeah, but again, and I would love to address specific points whenever we get people who comment on this and say people who disagree with me on any of this, because then I'll actually try to bring out specific facts. But that's just how about in general. So these last points, so let's do a speed round real quick. So what if you want to see hypocrisy, front and center, up close and personal, what about the contrast between the stimulus and this post office bill?
Yeah, man, this irks me because the Democrats and Republicans are supposed to be negotiating the stimulus, which has went out the door, by the way. I mean, I think both parties probably like that at this point, is that the stimulus is not on the mind of American people at this point because these protests is overtaking everything. But essentially, the Democrats are trying to pass a post office bill to try to have additional funding go to the post office so that they can save mail-in voting, aka their jobs. But they don't want to go ahead and pass the stimulus, the $1,200 stimulus, which is nothing, by the way. Let's be real, but they don't want to do that because they don't want to piecemeal any bills with the Republicans. And the Republicans are like, well, we're willing to pass what we both agree on right now to get help to the American people immediately, but I mean, and then let's be all honest, and quite honestly, the Republicans are cool with the Democrats kind of messing around anyways because they don't really want to do a stimulus. But, I just think the Democrats, saying that
they're the ones who are really holding out because they're the ones who are really holding out. It's literally my way or the highway. Like, let's just pass what we agree on from the Republicans end, from what they're saying. But the Democrats say no. If you don't agree, if you don't agree with 100%, then we don't want to.
Yeah. And they don't want to do it primarily because they don't want to help the economy before the election. They're just trying to win, and that's why they care about the post office so much, because they want to make sure that their mail is not being held up and that everybody's getting their voter balance because they think that's going to help them win, and that's what it's about.
Right.
And now Pelosi's coming out here talking about how there shouldn't be no debates. It's like, y'all can't get more obvious than this, bro.
So this is basically going to be a sneak preview for next week.
Basically, because we're going to talk about this next week.
Yeah, absolutely. But basically, speed round of this is, stimulus, they didn't want to pass it. They're not getting, they're not going hard at work at trying to pass the stimulus, but they go hard at work at passing a post office bill to save mail-in ballots that they're going to use to cheat like all hell.
Yeah.
But, that's another thing. And then, again, I'm telling you right now, this is what I'm saying. If they actually try to come up with some narrative and say that Joe Biden doesn't have to debate or is not going to debate.
They are going to. They're going to. I'm pretty sure they're going to.
That's going to be the end of the Democrats right there.
People ain't going to be the end of, because you're going to have people too stupid caught up on Trump being racist.
Oh, yeah, but they'll lose a lot of the swing voters if
people with common sense, they'll be like, yeah, the jig is up on the Democrats, bro.
Yeah, with them trying to pull out of the debates, but that'll all be interesting talking points next week. The polls. So last thing, so this should be a good way to wrap it up. Any updates on the polls or latest on?
I mean, again, it looks like the Democrats are losing we're gonna say they're not losing, but they're about to lose a 3-1 lead to Trump. Most polls have Biden still comfortably winning, but the last poll that I see from Real Clear Politics is on August 26th, so it was a couple days ago. So not, I feel like next week we're gonna see some shifts. We're going to see some movement. One poll, Robson Reports, has Biden up by just 1. And I think a month ago, they had Biden up by like 3. So they got CNBC got Biden up by 8. Economist got Biden up by 9. The Hill got Biden up by 9 as well. So, I mean, we'll see, man. I mean, I think that gap is closing.
So I have a couple theories on that before we sign off.
Yeah, go ahead.
The corona narrative is dying off. because the deaths have stayed at that 170, 180 range now for quite some time. And people are getting sick of these riots. And people are getting sick of the Democrats not saying anything to condemn them.
Yeah.
I think
I
people
think that's going to show up next week. It's going to really start to show up in a couple weeks.
And I think a very interesting point too is that I think that people who watch this, our fan base, people who support us, in particular, people who support Greg, just to make that clear.
Well, I only got 100 subscribers, bro. So we ain't got no fan base.
Well,
We just got some
give it time. I can't wait to see what people, post as arguments on comments so I can debate specific points with these general perspectives on all these things, coming up. And again, we'll spend more time on the stimulus post office and on mail-in ballots and on the debates, because I'm pretty sure that the debates are going to be a hot topic starting next week. But yeah, I mean, basically, what I'm trying to say is, buckle up, people, buckle up, America, because these next 2 months, now that the conventions are over and now basically the last things coming up in these last 2 months leading up to the election are the debates. Be ready. We're going to see a lot more controversy, a lot more Black Lives Matter, things with the cops, things with, Corona getting worse. And, there should be no debates because Corona's so bad. And, people are starting to default on stuff because that government support is running out since they can't pass the stimulus. These next 2 months are going to make all of 2020 leading up to this point look like child's play, really. So be ready, peeps. It's going to be a very interesting roller coaster from September to the beginning of November to November 3rd. If we even have a winner by November 3rd with mail-in ballots, don't mess it up. But again, I think that's going to be an interesting point to talk about too, is that, a lot of people, pretty much nobody knows what's going to happen. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. So yeah, crazy times, but I'm glad that we're able to give our perspectives on all this as it's happening in real time. And, glad to be a part of the show. Greg, anything you want to say?
Nah, man, thank you for having this episode 1. We'll see if this becomes a weekly, bi-weekly, monthly thing. We'll see how that goes. But, if it's, I don't expect too much traction on this first one just because I feel like with these type of shows, you need, I need a lot more subscribers to actually really get some real, but who knows? I mean, people may like it. People may, pay attention to it, but I think it's important early on to kind of show your personality, right? To show who you really are and to really, give a more unscripted, unedited kind of version of your opinion. So I think that's important. But thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. I'm gonna go ahead and log off because I really got to go. I will talk to you.
As do I. All right. Take care, sir.
Peace.
Thanks again. All right.